Excellent. So we can pick up sort of inside the still like need of the ritual. Um, and I was kind of thinking that's where we would go with things is to begin there. I think it has kind of a little bit more of a Halloween sort of episode to actually have you guys sort of like treating with that actual need. Does that sound good, or do you guys want to kind of push forward and try to get back on real time? Kind of prepared for both.
I mean, I'm good to spend a little time on the actual kind of resurrection part, but if everyone else wants to skip forward, that's fine with me too.
I think given that it's like our like first party death, I think it's kind of interesting and also, the Halloween thing, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I'm fine with spending more time with the ritual.
I was gonna say, Malchin stares at you with bullet eyes.
I mean, yeah, he was technically dead for a while, but it's never like dead and gone.
Yeah, it
Dead
never
like
really felt
quality.
real with Malchin because he was like undead.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things about death is that there's plenty of options to give players to like continue a player, but the cost is still there about dying. So, where we're going to pick up is pretty much coming back from uh that excursion into the necropolis. You guys are making your way back across the city as dusk is sort of falling, and you are basically, getting through the gates. The guards give you some trouble, but in the long run, like exiting is generally much simpler. They're trying to get people out, and there's almost no question about like, is this person undead or not? They're not like looking for infection like you would have in like a zombie movie where like somebody's getting out of quarantine. It's more like, do these people act human? Yes. Okay, excellent. Or is there a wave of clearly undead things that are trying to feast on the guards? So getting through the gates is actually not terribly difficult. Getting through the gates near dusk is not terribly difficult. The siege of the necropolis is because the undead rise and there's basically like straight up zombies and skeletons like clawing at the gates once darkness fully sets in. So there's definitely like no, maybe anticlimactic basically is kind of what I'm getting to as you like go to leave the necropolis approaching dusk here. You get out early enough. You all head across the city and there's no real danger that kind of comes to you. You have enough sort of foresense to recognize that you do have to sort of be on guard. But in general, you guys are probably sort of on the least kind of paying attention as you're kind of getting caught up in this idea of Bob has now been lost in the efforts to gain Dalton. You now have two friends who you need to get the Knights of the Pale to help you with to resurrect your friend Bob now with your friend Dalton. So you have more of this. You could probably get Neferndel to look it over and recognize that there is enough of the Gravesbane. But do you have any thoughts as you are crossing the city about things that you would go to accomplish? Or are you heading straight back to Blade Chapel with all haste once you are through the gates of the necropolis and the city is open before you again?
I think Karina would want to maybe send a message to Davros, given that who we had run off, Tom maybe, or Jelly Moon, to give the news that Dalton had fallen, but now that were, have what we need to hopefully resurrect him. Suggest we just send a message to him. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah, it's I think like the starting of the shadow sendings are like 15 or 20 silver. It's like a gold or two kind of thing. For shadow sending, you can go pretty expensive to if you want to like get things like confirmed for you, where like a shadow comes back to you. But do you have any thoughts on like what level you are trying to like put this message out? Are you summoning Davros to Blade Chapel? Do you want to just share the message that Dalton is in repose in Blade Chapel?
yeah, I think more just on the simpler side, just share the message that basically don't give up hope. We're taking care of things, and we hope to have Dalton back soon, and maybe give him the location where they're heading, and just say like if he wants to, he can make his way there, where Dalton's body is. Yeah, but doesn't want to delay too long, like for a return message or actually summon him. So being more on the kind of simpler, just a kind of heads up sort of message.
Gotcha. So probably the easiest and quickest way to do that would almost be to like stop at the Goblin House and essentially have like Kalimtas get everything set up there. But I'm pretty sure like I never actually thought about where you would have to go normally to like prepare a shadow sending, but I feel like it's kind of one of those things. There's probably like little stalls here and there where you can essentially hire somebody to like start the missive or start the ritual, maybe at the actual like security locations, like the guardhouses. But again, I feel like probably with how you guys are leaving the necropolis, that like northwestern route out of it goes right next to the Goblin House. Probably going straight to Kalimtas and having him sort of pass that message on would be the quickest route. So you guys could set that up. When you stop by the Goblin House, is there anything else you guys would need to do? Do you basically get that set as expedited as possible and head on your way? Or expeditiously?
Yeah, I think for Karina, she'd almost like when they stop at the Goblin House, maybe she'd like write down kind of what she wants the message to say, and just ask Kalemtas to kind of set it up and see it done. Especially since she doesn't know Davros particularly well. Some of the other Delvers have more familiarity with him. So um, yeah, so that would be for Karina. That's pretty much all she would want to do.
And I don't remember if you made the claim from Karina last time or not, but that was one of the things Jinx felt was important was to share with Davros. Uh, but I do believe you basically had Karina say, let's make sure that we can do something about this before we actually break it to him. So I'm sure that would bring some comfort to Jinx as well, that now you guys are going through that process.
Yeah, if I remember Karina, yeah, that was Karina's thought, but then, Jinx suggested we should tell him, and Karina deferred to him because Jinx knows Davros better than she does. So he's presumably aware.
Okay. Yeah, you guys did. Then you sent Jelly Moon.
Right, yep, yep. So, yeah, so Davros
Okay.
has been informed.
My bad. Yeah. So this is an update to what you've already shared with Davros. My bad. Yeah, I was definitely getting a little confused there. So yeah, that's all kind of set. You guys can take care of that. Um, Notch off a couple of silver, but in the long run, that's a pretty simple request to do. And between things, you could send, a lot of people from the guild just as easily as actually getting a shadow sending there. Anything else? Jinx, Scale? We basically beelining it for Blade Chapel otherwise.
Gale is definitely for beeline it to Blade Chapel. Not too comfortable carrying around lizard body parts, lizard man body parts in town.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. If we stop by the crib or whatever, we probably let Tom know that Bob fell, but that we were en route to try to get back in the game.
Bill as well. Bill and Tom are the other two lizard folk.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've ever met Bill before.
I don't think you guys have taken Bill out.
Oh, and maybe even like I don't know, as see if they wanted to come with us to the ritual because they.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let me have the first two. You'd roll d20s for me. Got a 4 and a 19. So we're gonna go for when you head there. Bill is nowhere to be found, but you are able to get Bob, and Bob is able to, or interested rather, in going. Like you'll see Bob kind of like hear the like you guys are telling him that wait, Bill, Bob, and Tom. Tom is nowhere to be found. Bill is who you find. Bill finds out that Bob died. Do you guys tell him how Bob died, or that you are carrying Bob in many, many pieces?
Be honest with me, Bill. I don't fully understand the regenerative properties of your kind. Is this too bad? And I'll like show him a piece.
In time of loss of my friend, I appreciate your attempts at comedy, but perhaps it's too far to wait. That actually is lizard skin. This is really a part of and he'll actually say Bob's like true name because as Malchin or Chris and I actually know, one of the things was is that they were introduced and they gave him his real like their real names. It's just unpronounceable for humans. Effectively it is in like reptilian. So I don't remember if it was Chris who said Bill, Bob, and Tom, or whether it was me. I think I kind of just replied that they're just like, fine, you can call us Bill, Bob, and Tom. Just as like simple kind of replies of like names you can pronounce. But yeah, Bob's gonna be kind of like shocked that you actually have a piece of Bob. Bill is going to be shocked, damn, that you have a piece of Bob in your hand. The regenerative process is usually limited to months of replacing our tails if something goes wrong. We'll
Yeah.
need stronger magics.
I wouldn't be completely honest with you. I already knew that. That was just my poor attempt at bedside manner. It's just not. We'll get him back.
So, Bill is, damn it. Yeah, Bill is glad that you've come to grab him and bring him along. Would anybody care to decide what sort of class Bill is?
I feel like okay, there's a ranger. Let's go ranger.
Excellent. Yeah, so Bill is effectively pretty like um slyly clad in clothing, like leather clothing, that is very similar to the actual flesh of his own lizard skin. It's almost as if he's sort of like grown extra layers of his carapace that like should have kind of shed away, and he almost like prepares it in ways that like keep that flesh kind of on. So when you look at Bill, he definitely has a larger build than you would see on Bob, and while it's definitely not possible to just look at one of these lizard folk and recognize when one is male or female, Bill at least kind of gives off signs with that carapace that would make you think more masculine qualities, just like in width and more like layers of the armor. But it's definitely one of those things where, like, Tom, uh, as a rogue, like, has a far more similar body type to what you've kind of come to used to with Bob. So it's like easier to recognize the difference with Bill and what you know of all of your time with Bob. But yeah, Bill will grab up his bow and a couple of blades, and you guys don't need to go armored through the city, but effectively you are going to a like renowned like warrior chapel anyways. So Blade Chapel in itself is also something that is kind of an occasion to see. So you guys can head off with Bill with you as well. Are there any other stops or needs on your way across the city? And so you cross through, make your way back up to Blade Chapel, and in kind of a similar fashion, when you guys head up into Old Town and approach Blade Chapel, you have that like long entryway through the Hall of Heroes, and you can pretty much immediately sort of hear like the hymns and the actual prayer coming from within Blade Chapel, kind of like acoustically, almost like shooting out into that area. It is like a daunting sound for so many voices in unison, harmonizing together to kind of like spread through. And I kind of want like you to recognize like an almost sense of, if it were something that like you were an evil creature, that level of holiness, that like loudness of it would almost be like an assault in itself on your presence, because none of you are specifically evil. There's no need for you to like make a constitution saving throw here, but you could definitely sort of understand how like an evil creature could not walk into that hall of heroes while there are these voices in prayer within Blade Chapel. It's a sort of mundane but very magical effect in this architecture. And you guys have been in places where like the stonework has magnified like slight magical effects and made like almost the entire place, like that prison, into sort of a magical like um I don't know, like charging like a capacitor almost. This has a very similar sort of way of how the vibrations of the music of this prayer around Dalton kind of like blasts out through Blade Chapel and into that Hall of Heroes. So when you arrive to this prayer, you'll see Sister Torella of the Sisters of Silence kind of leads the prayer. She's sort of standing at the head of the chapel, and with Dalton basically facing more or less north and south, his head sort of to the northern alcove, his feet sort of towards the southern alcove. The seven Knights of the Pale who now surround him, you can clearly see that Deanna is not there, but he is still surrounded by those eight people. And the hall is kind of filled with about 40 or so other people. And they are almost all in a very perfectly uniform harmonized sort of voice as they are like kind of continuing through this hymn. With the recognition of you all entering, you kind of see Torella sort of like nod to you all and give you more or less a motion like we're in the middle of this, kind of wait patiently sort of thing. Um let's see. I feel like Jinx has sort of been the one she's spoken, not my bad. She speaks through her eunuch, but that you guys have had the most contact with. Does that sound about right that Jinx was the closest in connection to Sister Torella Spock?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Make an insight here for me. Excellent. So you guys all see this nod. Jinx does not necessarily like appreciate or understand any more than what I've kind of already shared, which is effectively they recognize that you walk in, like she does at least. You kind of get this nod, like we're in the middle of something. But I'm not going to give you any more like information from that. Do you all basically sit back and kind of like wait slash sit quietly?
I think Karina is going to. She's definitely got an impatient look on her face, but she realizes that we can't really do anything without their help. So probably best not to antagonize them. So um, she'll kind of just pace quiet, maybe muttering to herself and kind of watching, but she won't. Yeah, she won't try to interrupt them.
Yeah, I feel like the same for Gale. He's just like don't want to interrupt him, but he's pretty antsy about like one, Dalton, and now two, Bob. Like how to bring that one up.
Do
Gotcha.
you know, is this like a church of like Lothian, or do they specifically like worship like a certain like god?
Let me confirm real quick by typing Knights of the Pale into my sheets. But I am pretty sure, yes, the Knights of the Pale are Lothian. Otherwise, they would be essentially non sequitur.
So I think Jinx would just kind of like whatever the general thing is, like kneel down in prayer, and try to communicate with Lothian.
Yeah, so the chapel here is more or less Lothian, in that these are effectively like non-denominational. These are warrior knights more than that they are dedicated to a single god, but they are also more or less knights of the empire and therefore Lothian. So it's kind of one of those things where the iconography is effectively Lothian simply because of things, not necessarily because they are exclusively Lothian. Oh, and I don't know why I said 8. My notes here say that the knight's number 16. I don't think it's a big deal, but I let's just kind of pretend that I've always said 16 instead of 8. So theoretically, there are 15 of them around Sister Torella. But otherwise, everybody think you're patient enough to wait like 5 minutes? Do we have 10 minutes of waiting? 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think Jinx would be like pretty deep in prayer, basically just trying to like offer up like whatever he can to Lothian to like help bring his friends back.
Gotcha. Make a religion check for me there, Jinx. But Karina is pretty patient, and Gail pretty patient.
Her muttering probably every 5 minutes or so. Her muttering probably gets a little bit louder, pacing a little bit quicker, but she is able to. Yeah, she refrains from um, doing anything directly to kind of interrupt them. Still, even after like 15-20 minutes.
Go ahead, there, Chris.
Just to say, same with Gale. Basically, I mean, he's a wizard in a religious temple chapel, and he knows the history. He's not gonna like be disorderly.
Gail's mending wounds. He doesn't want to cause them. Yeah, so that was sort of already a trick because I rolled to see how long it would be. And roughly they take a little bit over 5 more minutes to wrap up this ritual. I am going to say, because of how you answered for me, Jinx, that while you finish your prayer, you are completely oblivious to the actual. Wait, why is Jinx more like religious than Seraph? I feel like I was about to describe it as if it were Seraph praying, and I forgot it's Jinx. But yeah, I'm gonna stick to Jinx. Just doesn't necessarily notice that they sort of wrap up things. While Karina's like muttering for the first time, you might like have a moment where Karina notices you're like muttering and you think it's to yourself, but the whole chapel goes like instantly silent. Uh, Speaking of Hitchhiker's Guide, it reminds me how in the movie he like bumps the radio, turns it off, and he's like, I said all these people are idiots. And there's just like silence over the room right as you like yelled at. Her little muttering kind of like might feel like that for a moment, but basically this whole choir of the Knights of the Pale sort of goes silent after about 5 minutes here. Jinx kind of caught up still in his prayer. Gail and Karina finally kind of like appreciating, excellent, they're done. And you guys can sort of approach your friend Dalton. Again, that area is sort of like perfumed and herbed, where there's no sort of like sense of rot or decay. Very starkly different to the death that you experience in sort of the necropolis. His body is effectively, perfectly preserved, as if he was slain just over, an hour ago, now this day later. And I think Neffy and Karina are the two who harvested the Graves Bane, but Sister Torella will kind of like with a bowed sort of head, looking maybe a little bit more canted towards like Dalton's head. She kind of bows to you. You guys will see as her eunuch kind of like stands up and approaches you all and has, Sister Torella is glad that you all have returned safely. And with night setting in, relatively unharmed. I don't think, are any of you bloodied at this point? I think everybody got somewhat hit, but I think only Bob really got like bad.
I'm like literally on the verge of bloody. I have 24 of 47.
Yeah.
I already updated my sheet, but I'm pretty sure
Gotcha.
Karina was very close to death. She was at like 4 hit points at the end of last session.
Yeah, so I think it's sufficient to say that like they can recognize while you're making it here before like at darkness now over here in Old Town. I think you guys show signs of, we had to work for this. And the Knights of the Pale already sort of have the respect for you all, to recognize this is sort of what you do, is going to places and handling your business. Sister Torella greets you and hopes that with your return, everything is in order, and you'll have probably the slight recognition that the eunuch is noticing that Bill is not Bob. there's been at least a little bit of a change in what's going on here. Um, is everything in order? Uh, and probably looking towards Neferndel, were you able to recover the Gravesbane necessary?
Yes, we did. We actually got some extra as well. Unfortunately, one of our other party members fell.
Sister Torella will kind of like look to you, sort of with a sign of disappointment. Uh, The eunuch will kind of like turn to you from looking at Torella and, well, recently were you able to recover their body? What is the conditions of their passing?
We were able to recover all of the pieces. It's not pretty. It was recent, but we don't have any way to preserve the body. I I think we're right back where we started. We're in desperate need.
Sister Torella has her whole face shrouded by her hand, and she's just like shaking her head in disappointment. Like looks up for a moment, rubbing her eyes like right at her brow, looks up to the eunuch. The eunuch kind of turns to you all. Perhaps you could accompany me, and he'll look to the northern alcove and the stairs over to like in that direction. Um, who has body parts at this point of Bob?
Gale would definitely have some of the body parts.
I think Karina probably was able to find some as well.
I think lizard folk weigh almost 400 pounds. I don't know for sure, but I feel like the lizard folk are gigantic. So that's one of the things where,
I feel like we would probably had to spread it out by basically to all of us. I don't think we could have carried her entire body mass otherwise.
yeah, I'm looking at it, looking for a quick response to it to see. All right, 200 to 250 pounds. So it's 90 to 100 kilos kind of thing. Definitely big, but not necessarily as big as I was thinking. But probably all of you, they'll basically kind of like have you guys come down into the other staircase. I don't believe you've gone down into this side yet. It is pretty similar where the stairs down have a sort of weird effect of you're not always going down uniform distances. You're not always finding like the openings where you can step off to a new level as at a uniform distance. So as you spiral down these staircases, you kind of have like one exit, another exit like 30 feet, 10 feet down, there's another exit. So, like, it kind of goes like that. But I think you'd probably go, say, like 3 levels down until you kind of like come out to where the eunuch will guide you. And it's more or less this one is sort of like a medical station. You can see like actual, like, not cadavers, but like stone. It would almost be kind of like the surgeon in shadows operating room where you can see like stone plinths that you could kind of like set like a body on and do like surgeries or kind of magical healing to somebody who is effectively unconscious at a comfortable height. And The eunuch's gonna have you guys start to basically take apart and try to place Bob more or less back together. And I want all of you to make a medicine check here.
That
All right, I'm
sounds.
going to use my inspiration on this ahead of time.
Gale got a 19.
And an 18 for Karina.
12.
Excellent. Yeah, I think you guys are able to kind of pull all of these pieces at need. You are able to kind of get everything sort of situated and effectively kind of it's definitely interesting with the tail to sort of place that kind of part of Bob like on I don't know how a lizard folk would lay flat on a stone bed. But yeah, you guys reassemble Bob into her general kind of form and are pretty sure you've got all of those pieces where they need to be. And with that, kind of the eunuch is going to bring you all back out into the chapel where you can kind of reconvene. Um, we're gonna go here to. I think I want a D100 from Justin of Dalton. As you guys approach Torella, the eunuch kind of. Oops, I just left Rodeo. The eunuch kind of bringing you back and sort of looking to Torella, and we are prepared, excellent, to start the ritual for your friend here. Do you all have close connections together? Are there those of you who believe you have strong connections to your friend? Those of you who perhaps are most capable of making this connection? Something to find his spirits within the ethereal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're very connected. We've been through hell together. I mean, some of us more than others, but yeah, we're like family.
Excellent. That's good. Please prepare yourself during the ritual. As we call to his spirit, I will call for you, Jinx, to come forward and beckon for him to return. In order that we might have the greatest success, please don't be shy of what might be that connection to your friend. If Dalton's spirit is capable of returning to his body, he must be reminded of the value of life, the importance of his flesh. The time spent away can quickly be exhausting to return, and one can find the repose of death perhaps all too comforting. And the eunuch will kind of like turn to, um, Gale. Do you two have a close connection with your friend? And basically go through all of you at this point to kind of see if everybody has like something prepared, some way of beckoning to Dalton to have him return. And on some level, I'm going to put this forward to more or less Jinx and Gale. Do you two have something prepared? that you would call on Dalton's spirit to return.
Could we take 5 and think about it really quick?
That actually sounds perfect.
Okay, cool. I want to take a leak too. Appreciate it.
I'm gonna step away for a minute as well. I'll be right back. I'm back.
Yeah, I'm
Welcome
here
back.
as well.
Excellent. So yeah, we'll basically kind of like pick back up with the idea that Sister Torella begins to lead the actual chanting of this group. Again, kind of what I feel like kind of makes more sense with the Sisters of Silence is they don't speak, but she definitely kind of intones sort of the like magical language that might resonate a little bit more with Gale than the others, but effectively Jinx kind of is a magic user as well, kind of understands that there are um I don't know, like magical sounds are very sort of like almost like sung notes sort of thing. And she kind of like has that like mix of sort of like not speaking, not humming, not singing, but it's definitely an intoning of these sounds that starts to kind of lead this group. And they're not speaking like a true language, but you can kind of interpret that like this is sort of the same singing that you would have walked into that kind of like comes out sort of as the hymn of the actual Blade Chapel here, and they sort of begin this same sort of ritual here. And you see as she starts to actually take like the different portions of the Gravesbane and sort of begins to almost like crumble it over Dalton. And as it kind of like starts to like not really powderize, but sort of like break up into its little pieces, it doesn't even stay intact long enough to hit him before it's almost like consumed by sort of like a almost like Gale Cat's shield. There's like a point where it just kind of like falls through this layer and almost turns to like an invisible like dust, and there's like a little bit of like a sparkling at this layer that the Gravesbane just kind of like dissipates. And you see as she just kind of like crumbles it over him, like head to toe, over his arms, over his legs, basically kind of like covering effectively all of the different parts of his body with this on some kind of stick figure like level, not like every inch side to side, but basically that like head gets some, torso gets some, each leg, each arm, and she just kind of sprinkles this over. You see as she takes like a particular candle and starts to actually like intone, where you start to hear like the actual name of Dalton Demarkis sort of like almost like becoming the voice of the choir, as you can hear that it's now like turning this song that you heard everybody joining in previously into the actual ritual of calling to him to return his like soul to his body. And you start to hear this voice or this name as the intoning voice of the entire group, and you see the first sort of sparks of light near this candle as the ritual continues on. And there's going to be a point where Sister Torella looks to each of you, and they'll kind of tell you this almost on a previous level, but she's going to look towards Jinx first to have Jinx call to Dalton. So I would like you to share with us what Jinx would do to try to call to Jinx's friend Dalton. And then I'm going to decide what role that will be. If you have thoughts on what that role will be, you can definitely share that with me. And this is gonna kind of come to the same level of Gail, you preparing your own thing too. But be aware, just like with a lot of skill challenges, if Jinx chose, for instance, to do Arcana, and Gale was already planning on doing Arcana, it's gonna make your Arcana plea that much more difficult. So you guys want to be doing different things. But I don't necessarily want you planning that ahead of time. So it might be surprising to you, Gale. But Jinx, what do you have prepared? How would you call the Dalton? And if you have a check in mind, what would you like it to be?
Okay, so having had like the gloves have like some meaning with like the house and everything, and Dalton having like used them for a bit when he was in rough shape. I think he would like pull the gloves out and kind of like clutch them as he sort of like reached out or like pleaded with Dalton's spirit to come back. I don't have like a specific check in mind, but maybe I could just like say what he would say, and then you could just let me know. Maybe
Yeah, that's
like
perfectly fine.
maybe persuasion. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I'm already drawn to if you're using a physical object like that and going off of like his use of it, I'm pretty likely to give you a history. I might let you do history with charisma. Um, I don't know if that would be any different. I assume it's lower than your persuasion, but I think the connection, the history with the gloves is sort of what it feels like to me. So, let me or let everyone hear what Jinx has in mind as you call to the spirit of Dalton.
Hey there, Dalton. Not sure if you could hear me, buddy, but I want you to come on back now. Miss you, man. We need you. I know that we've always had a little rivalry between us. You know, who's the better bard? Obviously, we both know, but it's just not the same, man. And I know Davros really misses you too, and I don't think he'd really forgive us if we got you killed. So, need you to go ahead and come on back, buddy. Need you to just remember all the good times and all the bad times, and just remember that you gotta take the good with the bad, and there's still plenty more of both right here. Just gotta come back, man. Gotta come back to us, and understand that might be comfortable, just resting and relaxing, but don't get too comfortable, buddy. Now come on back, all right? Because if you don't, I'm gonna come and get your ass, and I'm gonna bring you back. Now you come back now, all right? Dalton, you come back. It's Jinx and Malchin, Gale, and all of us. We need you, buddy. Come on now. Come on back. On Jinx would just be done at that point in time. He would definitely just be crying and pleading with Dalton.
Excellent. Give me one moment here. Alrighty. I have deafened the two of them. I'm curious. That to me, I feel like is a persuasive, historical kind of like call to Dalton. But there's one thing that I'm just curious if Dalton would latch onto. Do you think he was challenging you when he said, "We both know who the best part is"?
Um, so the way I heard that was that his what he was implying um, was that it's Dalton. I have no idea if that's what Jinx meant, but that's kind of how Dalton would take it.
That's perfectly fine. That's a no to my question then. It's not a challenge to you to like say it's him calling to you, giving you that credit. Okay, that's perfect. I'm gonna unmute them here.
Sure. Yep.
All right, my bad. I deafened you guys for a moment there, but we are going to kind of pick up back with it. I think giving you the charisma history check sounds to me like the perfect way to kind of go to that. You're kind of like looking to return Dalton with those sort of memories of the things that you guys have accomplished. It feels like the right thing. So if you would give us a, I believe, charisma check with half proficiency. Do you have history as a proficiency on Jinx?
No, my history is only +1, but
Gotcha. So
my
yeah, it's tricky
charisma
to
modifier is +4.
but that's the thing. Do you? I don't think you have proficiency, so you should have half proficiency.
Yeah, that's +1.
You guys should have. Is 7 not 4? Oh, maybe it's 8 when you go to 4.
Yeah, and I think it rounds down.
I gotcha. So yeah, with a +5, then let us get a D20 here.
All right, so it's 17 total.
Excellent. So the hymn kind of continues on. You start to see that the actual like wick of this candle that kind of sits at the head of Dalton is like not sparking with light, but it is starting to glow with the sort of inner light in this candle. Uh, Gail, she continues on like intoning this kind of hymn that becomes the voice of beckoning Dalton's name. She nods to Gail. What would you share with the rest of the group? How would you beckon to Dalton? And if you do have a particular test in mind, what are you thinking there? What is Gail going to say?
All right, yeah. What is he going to say? I feel like he would probably try to do this, but yeah, sure. He's probably gonna go up to Dalton's corpse, like put 2 fingers on his forehead, just close his eye and whisper to himself, basically, yes. And I feel like, wait, how would he do it? Yeah, magic. I feel like he would try to find like, I'm not sure if that would be like religion or arcana or what it would be, but try to find like the tether to his, like something that binds him from his corpse to whatever like ethereal plane he might be in. Just go like try to find with words a way to focus, like to get the right tether, I guess would be the thing. Yeah. No, in the long run, we haven't known each other for a particularly long time, but feel like time we have known each other for is significant. At least certainly had experienced many things together. And you heard, Jinx, there is people missing you here. Family, friends. Come on, just show me where to look, please. Something to latch onto. Anything.
Excellent. How does I feel like an Arcana check is sort of where you're going here, where you're trying to like latch on with the actual like search for his tether to this body. You're it would seem trying to find like the emotive, kind of like the emotion that might like shine the light on it for you, but it still feels vastly arcana. Um, and it's hard to say that you can beat that, but I'm kind of tempted to say instead of like a simple arcana, I'm kind of tempted to do like a sort of insight in with intelligence. Um, those are the two that kind of come to mind with me to me on like how you're using the difference of like the emotion and sort of the search for the tether between his body and the ethereal self.
I mean, insight feel like that would actually fit pretty well, maybe.
Gotcha. Put insight with our intelligence because it's still like pretty close to that arcana check. Do you have proficiency in insight?
I do not.
Gotcha. Yeah, so let's see what that is. And what your intelligence is a +5. So I think this is just a D20 +5.
Oh, it's because can I use inspiration for this? Or is it like
I don't see why not.
then just to hedge my bets, I am using my inspiration for this.
Excellent.
Oh, that is horrible. That's an 11.
Gotcha.
Roll a 6 and a 5.
Alrighty. I don't know if you've got both character sheets prepared, but I did reactivate Dalton today kind of last minute. If you wouldn't mind, Justin, either with just knowing his kind of things in mind or by going to your actual character sheet, can you roll a d20 for me? And I think this would be um attempted to say just go constitution here. So just whatever your maybe Constitution save. I don't think bards have that as a proficiency. Yeah, I think just Constitution.
Sure. So this will be +1.
Yeah, D20 +1 sounds right. Yeah.
And yeah, Dalton was pretty moved. Oh wait, Dalton doesn't have inspiration. Karina has inspiration.
It's effectively yours. If you wanted to use your inspiration here, you are welcome to.
I mean, he's pretty
'Cause
moved.
that's again one of those things where inspiration is a very meta thing. It is you who possess it, so you can gain it and use it on any of your characters, sidekicks, main character, or technically both of your main characters.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Karina and Dalton have a little bit of a history, so maybe she's kind of in the background. Obviously Gale and Jinx know him a bit better. Um, but yeah, I'll think of. But yeah, I think Dalton's soul is pretty moved by Gale's and Jinx's pleas and kind of reasoning. So I'm going to go ahead and use my inspiration on this one. Oof. All right, 12.
Excellent. Okay, so Dalton, you are similarly in the darkness of kind of death and of essentially in the ethereal sea. This is not necessarily a completely sort of different time frame than when you would have experienced that weird contact with the dreaming apothecary here. Uh, to Dalton, the stretch of time in death could be infinite just as much as it can be like the snap of a finger. The experience of time is vast and completely other to you inside of this moment. So there's definitely just sort of time spent. You don't necessarily know how to appreciate it on any given level here. So this is more or less just an experience that you kind of like have in this sort of meantime, while you are sort of floating around. There is going to be a point where you find yourself sort of all of a sudden, more or less, kind of recognizing that you're not surrounded in darkness. You can't quite feel the touch of ground beneath your feet, but you do notice yourself kind of moving through this area as if you're walking down a path. And I'd like you to just give me a perception check from Dalton.
Sure. Okay, that's an 8.
Excellent. Yeah, so you can't really quite tell like what this path is that you're kind of walking down. You're going to sort of just be heading down this. There are things moving by you to the sides, but your eyes are drawn forward. First towards these large black gates that are looming just ahead of you. And they continually kind of like remain just beyond your reach, kind of a feeling. And you notice as these gates kind of get larger and larger, that like looming just beyond feeling is part of like recognizing at first you saw them and they were the right size for you to just walk through as if they were two doors, and you reach out for them and they're not there, and you just kind of are focused on this like tunnel vision staring towards these gates until they're twice as high as you and you're still not reaching them, until they're 20 feet tall and you're still not reaching them, and now they're 30 and 40 and 50 feet tall before you kind of come to the recognition that there are four creatures standing around you in these kind of cardinal directions to you. Can you make a insight check with me for me with Dalton?
That would be a 14.
Gotcha. You're not entirely sure about these particular creatures, about what they are, but you are sure enough that they are vampiric in nature. You guys have come across at least, I think, the one vampire. I think to recognize, actually, I think you've been kind of past two different vampires. I think there's a certain sense of understanding, or at least I kind of hope, that Dalton knows that like the vampire who you guys went after with the wanted poster was a different sort of vampire than the orc girl who was cursed by the amulet. Well, actually, the third vampire would be Malchin. Was different than like Malchin when he was gaining vampiric qualities. That there's vampiric, and like other basically blood consumers. What is it like Sapio? I don't know. Regardless, basically, you can kind of recognize enough to understand that these are some sort of vampiric creatures, not necessarily like any of the vampires that you had experienced, but you're kind of coming to terms where you've often, most people would be told vampire stories and how to do this or that. And you already know only some of that stuff is true, and perhaps it's different with each vampire you've encountered. But one thing that you kind of find weird at first here is as you approach and find yourself at the center of these four creatures, they're not thirsting after you. And it would take you that moment to kind of like make this recognition. you're still passing without a body. You're standing in the center of four vampires, and they almost don't even recognize you as being there. There's some sense of where they're kind of looking at you, but you can kind of tell like this difference of you don't have a body. You don't really register for them on the same level. You're not food. But you kind of have reached these gates. They stand 40 feet tall, just black stone, carved in intricate, beautiful relief. But they're just like onyx level of just deep black stone. And these four creatures kind of stand at guard. You're sort of staring to the east, and the rest of your perception still struggles to see kind of around you. Your surroundings, other than these four creatures and these gates, just is kind of like almost right beyond your ability to experience. Do you have a thought what you're doing when you reach these gates? You've felt yourself walking towards them, but do you have a thought once you feel you've reached them?
Yeah, so I think Dalton is yeah, when he finally reaches them, um he's getting the sense that this is a if he goes through these gates, there's no coming back out. Um and I don't know if he's sensed any of the um anything yet from what's going on back on the material plane. But he's definitely hesitant to walk through. Um,
Gotcha. Make I think just a wisdom saving throw. It's basically like fight this like urge sort of step through.
all right, that's flat, so 14.
Gotcha. So you kind of like hold here for what feels like some amount of time. And again, the actual like appreciation of time is lost on you sort of in this experience. So there's definitely a like pause here, and it just feels like it's going to continue on, and none of your perception changes. So there just kind of comes a point where eventually you sort of open up these gates before you and you walk through them anyways. I would like you to make a persuasion check for me, please.
All right. All right. 29.
Excellent. So as you kind of walk through these gates, they open to you just with your thought, kind of like almost giving in, like as if you've been fighting this urge to walk through these gates, feeling that this is the moment where when you walk through them, you are leaving your body for good. You have given in to this sense of death is permanent. I don't have a choice to go back. Nobody's calling for me. This is where I'm gonna go. And like you kind of have this recognition where you like stop fighting it, and for that instant of like giving in, the doors start to open to you. When you open, or when these doors open, you're going to see, what is it, about a 50, no, 100-foot long kind of colonnade ahead of you. This is like a blue kind of grayish sort of slate stone lined room that is about as tall as the actual doors, about like that 30 or 40 feet tall inside, and that's like where the colonnade goes up to the second level of this place. The actual ceiling above that probably even goes sort of beyond your perception, as you're still kind of like locked into this weird like super focus ahead of you. But as you sort of like look into this area, you see the colonnade ahead of you, and inside, you're going to basically see two things. There is a large humanoid who is about 20 or so feet tall and seems to be like some sort of like ogre like creature, only its entire chest is kind of like carved out and missing, and it has like a portcullis kind of gate of steel, and you can just see inside of it different humanoids kind of like struggling to reach out, and you very quickly kind of see this is some sort of creature that is like imprisoning souls sort of within it. And on the other side of that entryway, you see Jinx standing there calling to you. And I'm going to reveal. So this is where you are kind of looking in from the west and kind of looking to the but when you see this creature with like the souls kind of entrapped in sort of its body, you see Jinx kind of to the south of you. What are your initial thoughts there?
So I think Dalton, probably his attention is drawn to the ogre first, and he feels just kind of like a wave of revulsion as he sees these kind of souls trying to like reach out, maybe escape. Um, and I think he almost like instinctively goes to like take a step back, and maybe his like back even um, like hits against the gates that I don't know if they've closed behind him. Um, but he kind of is like cowering a little bit, and then he kind of out of the corner of his eye, just catches a sight of Jinx on the other side, um, and he feels like kind of seeing this as this familiar face. Um, he's almost like his first thought is almost like, oh no, like Jinx is something happened to Jinx as well, and he almost feels like an urge to like move towards Jinx to like so almost to like defend against this ogre like creature.
Gotcha. So Jinx is beckoning to you with many of the same thoughts as you would have heard Justin already sort of sharing. And you definitely kind of have this sort of kind of like reoccurring moment of that's kind of where almost everything that comes from Jinx sort of like starts. I don't mean to
Got
force you to play Jinx like in any way, Justin, but like there's a certain level of this is Dalton's understanding of Jinx mirrored through that beckoning moment of Jinx's plea. So you are very successful in that plea and that connection to Dalton. So Jinx has a solid level of control over this anomaly inside of Dalton's moment of death here. So that's kind of like how I want you to play this character right now. Because this is not Jinx. This is Dalton's understanding of Jinx. And Jinx has some control over it from outside. Um, when you kind of cower away from the ogre, Jinx is beckoning to you to almost like staunch yourself in that very moment with the same words that he was trying to call you back to life. But you're also going to see as the ogre, kind of with a like bow and nod of its head, is going to look to you. Welcome, lost soul, to the dark reliquary. You are, and it kind of like reaches up to its lips and kind of like I don't know why what I was thinking there. Almost kind of like wipes up a little bit of the drool that kind of like is dripping out of its mouth and like tastes like the flavor of the drool, looking quite delicious. The master of the house is expecting you. It kind of looks to you with like a question of, what's your purpose?
Okay, so um, yeah, gotcha on the Jinx part. So I think kind of scratch a little of what so Dalton wouldn't be more kind of thinking he has to defend Jinx. But when he sees a creature, so when it first starts like you are, Dalton's almost thinking, oh, it's asking for a name. I'll give it a fake one, and then it can't take me. Um, but he kind of like still kind of feeling this like revulsion as he's looking at this creature. Um, and when it says like the master of the house is expecting you, he's going to, I think, kind of try to like look towards Jinx again to try to almost using Jinx as like a like to center himself, to, like give him kind of almost more like a little more solidity here in this weird kind of ethereal place. And
Let me start off with, let me have you roll an insight here for me, please.
sure, 7.
Excellent. Not giving you anything extra with a 7. Uh, you can kind of continue on with that thought.
Yeah, so Dalton is going to kind of look to Jinx to try to bolster himself, and look towards the creature again, and in response to its what it says, he's going to try to speak to it and say, I would hate to keep him waiting, but afraid there may be some unfinished business to attend to first. He's going to kind of look towards Jinx, kind of as he says that, unfinished business part. And he's definitely like, his tone is definitely kind of like he's definitely kind of scared, I think. But he's trying to again kind of use like the presence or the seeming presence of Jinx to kind of bolster his spirit and give himself some kind of courage as he stares down this kind of ogre thing.
Gotcha. So yeah, let me have you make a. Hmm, let me have you make, I think, a wisdom save here.
Sure. He is not rolling well. 6.
Your unfinished business is not to see the Lord and Lady. You've come to the Dark Reliquary, and what else would you desire? And he just kind of like opens his arm with sort of like a beckoning kind of motion to the hall ahead of you. And you kind of see as his arm kind of sweeps out that like this hall is filled with people and creatures, demons and devils, undead and living folk, spirits, and just packed. with things, living and undead. Like where moments ago it was just sort of the three of you standing there, you just kind of see like this is some sort of um almost like a bus station, kind of filled with people like walking through these halls, some of them going to the stairs to the north, some to the stairs to the south, some to the hall to the north, some to the hall to the south, and occasionally some will pass through the doors on that eastern side. But it just kind of like looks to you and it's kind of curious, like, you have unfinished business. It's brought you here. What else could you desire? Jinx, let me have an insight from you here, please.
13.
13. You're starting to kind of notice that this creature doesn't see you, but you're kind of experiencing this. Jinx doesn't necessarily know offhand, like you actually, you know what, this is probably enough to just say you might like start to notice this creature's not like paying attention to you. It's talking to Dalton. Dalton is talking like about you and like motioning towards you, but the creature's never really like not paying attention to him. And there might be a moment where you like look at your hand. You've been invisible before. Maybe you're invisible right now and you kind of see, all right, that's my hand. You're almost kind of like not there. So you do kind of notice you're not like entirely opaque. You might even notice at some point that you basically have like a silver thread kind of coming out of your body and it just sort of leads away from you. But it would be kind of like the first experience of Jinx to kind of recognize like this isn't your body that you are in, but you are in this kind of like moment here as well. Do you have anything to kind of like say to Dalton as you basically hear this creature kind of saying to him, "What more could you desire?" as it like beckons him to enter this place, perhaps of unfinished business, perhaps something other.
So I like recognize that I'm in this like weird place, but understand that this creature can't like see me or doesn't know I'm here.
On some level, effectively, that's what you're kind of intuiting here. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue to not notice you, but at least at present, that creature's not paying you any attention.
I guess it doesn't really make much sense, but do I have the gloves in my hand right now?
Roll a D100.
70.
As you look down, you do not have the gloves.
Don't, come on, we gotta get you out of here. Gotta sneak you home. Don't pay any attention to him. Don't listen to what he says.
And yeah, Dalton maybe kind of hearing Jinx speak for the first time is going to uh like he turns, maybe trying to when he hears like when Jinx says we're gonna sneak you out of here, so he doesn't like whip his head around, but he kind of like his eyes dart over and maybe even like make contact with with Jinx's eyes, and he looks towards the creature again, and um, I think he's going to almost like, in answer to like what else would you desire, he's going to and not sure you understand, and he's going to, if he can, try to start almost like very slowly like sidling in the direction of Jinx.
So like sidestepping into the room and towards Jinx.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Doesn't seem to be reacting.
And so Dalton is going to kind of, again, eyes will kind of like dart over towards Jinx, and he'll I think he's just gonna say like, I heard you, friend. Unfinished business. Then yeah, and then I think he's going to just kind of continue trying to get closer. He doesn't know like if Jinx can get him out of here or what exactly is going on, but he feels like, um, he's definitely kind of made his choice at this point. He wants nothing to do with this ogre thing, or kind of looking at all the other creatures kind of milling about. He's kind of, again, he's like drawn towards Jinx, and her hearing his pleas, and kind of recalling all of everything they've kind of gone through, and um, yeah, so he's gonna keep trying to move towards Jinx.
You have no problem at all approaching Jinx, so you get to him. You guys are effectively standing right next to each other. Neither of you have physical bodies, so it's not like you could like shake hands or hug, but you could certainly like enact the same movements. You feel something like the act of hugging someone, but there's nothing to like touch to like stop almost your spirits from like almost combining with a weird sort of magnetic effect. But yeah, you can walk over to him with no problem. The creature's still looking at you, waiting for an answer of what you might desire.
Yeah, so I guess he'll looking back towards the creature, as he kind of, after sort of greeting Jinx in this kind of weird, not really physical kind of way. What do I desire? More time.
Do you require rest? You have no physical body to recover from sleep, to recover of injuries. Is there delicious fineries that you would enjoy? Drink, drugs, women, men, demons. What would you spend your time with?
Freedom. Tell him we want freedom. Ask him how to get out, how to go back.
And are you saying, speaking to the ogre, Are you saying you can offer all these things? Is that it?
Most anything you can think of, we do indeed offer. Freely, with no questions asked. You have desires to satiate your soul? What solution can I offer you? So if I can interrupt you real quick, the more you kind of come to realize, like, this isn't like a predatory creature looking to eat you. It is very much an ogre. It has this horrific, like, cage of writhing spirits inside of it. But like, the more you kind of like come to sense this isn't like a combat like you've experienced on the mortal plane. This is like a combat for your soul kind of thing that you are dealing with. The more you come to realize that it's not like physically trying to like bite into you, that it tastes like the like danger that your soul is willing to encounter, like your thirst to gamble is almost what it tastes, and it can't like quite make out what it is to offer you. This thing is friendly in the worst sort of ways. And the more you kind of like encounter it in this like level, the more you start to notice like your perception just kind of like lapsing before you can kind of see like moment to moment. Oh no, we just lost Chris. My bad. I want to bring in Gail in a moment here. But moment to moment, you're kind of like noticing that this thing is like wearing like fine like suit, like wool fine suit, and it looks as if it's like friendly and kinder, but you still see this like horrific mangled like flesh of the ogre that's still kind of there. The souls still stuck inside of it can still sort of be seen through like the three buttons of the suit. This thing is definitely like a different kind of enemy.
Gotcha. Do you want to take a moment to see if Chris gets back?
I'm
Look,
still here.
yeah, it looks like you dropped from the actual game table, but I don't know if that even matters
Oh,
because I'm
okay. I
not
thought
really
you said.
showing much on the game table. No, I saw it drop off the game table, but I noticed he was still there. My bad, I didn't say that. He's still in voice, and that's what matters.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So Dalton, kind of looking at this creature, and he's thinking. He's definitely like considering. It's like everything I could, everything I could want, freely offered. Um, and he's gonna like definitely kind of considering it, and then but then he's gonna kind of respond. I thought that was what I wanted once, but I've learned you don't work for it. It's not really worth anything without the risk of failing.
Then I return to my question. You've unfinished business. You desire time. How would you spend it?
I've made mistakes. No kind of gesture. I don't know if there's really like a sense of like direction here, but like almost sense like gesture downwards as if like the material plane is like down there. Um, I've made mistakes down there. people have been hurt. I'd seek to.
One moment. When you say down there, people have been hurt, there's just like a horrific kind of like cackle that comes from this thing. Yes. More than you could ever understand.
And Dalton will kind of like falter for a moment at that, but then kind of, and I would use my time to, well, much of my time to try to rectify that and do what I can to help others.
If you desire to join the kitchen staff, you are more than welcome. You need only progress to the hall and down to your right. And I'll kind of like point down this main entry hall. And you can't necessarily see this far down the hall, but basically that's the hall it's kind of pointing to. Where I just like revealed that on the southeastern side of this room. So your thought of helping others, it thinks, oh, you want to join the kitchen staff. You're welcome to.
Yeah, so Dalton is like, you're offering me menial labor. Don't think you.
Time, unfinished business, helping others. You can have what you would like. Why are you here? What do you desire? Do you not want to help others? Do you not want to spend time in their service? Ask for what your unfinished business is. For that is why you are here.
Tell him, Dalton. Tell him the truth. You're gonna save Tolis. We need you to save Tolis.
The ones I want to help will not be found in this place.
Chris, can you roll me a Arcana check, please?
That is a 13.
So while you are like basically pleading out to Dalton, you see like the faintest line kind of like coming out of him and kind of like led back out of Blade Chapel. And you just kind of have, I don't know, this is where I kind of like to stretch magic and almost like take it to like something beyond the spells of the game. But you kind of have like this ability to kind of almost like sidestep towards the ethereal to like watch this. And basically, Gail's going to kind of recognize there, like, Dalton is currently tethered all the way back into the necropolis. Like, this tether between his physical body is leading through the ethereal plane, but like in that direction. Um, Dalton, can I have you roll a perception check here?
That would be a 12.
Gotcha. So you're starting to hear like the pleas of Gale for you to return, like this persuasive kind of like search for like the emotions that would bring you back and connect you back with the physical plane. And you can kind of hear at this point Gale is like screaming, not necessarily screaming, my bad. Kind of like calling out to you as if he's locked behind doors. And you can't quite make out for sure, but you feel like this is basically where you would start to hear like the actual calls of Gale. Gale, for many of the same kind of reasons or same ways that I told Jinx is sort of like almost physical there, you can kind of recognize at this point that you too, I'm not going to reveal where at present, are effectively inside of this place, kind of like drawing yourself closer to the actual tether that leads to Dalton here on like this ethereal sea. So at this point, you're almost to him. Dalton can kind of recognize that you are nearby and you can now hear his pleas. This effectively brings you guys kind of up to speed with where that resurrection ritual is happening on the physical plane. Dalton is now experiencing those things inside of this place. And soon, I would assume, or Gale, you'll know where you are on this map. But yeah, this creature's still kind of like basically telling you, like, you are here for your reasons. You can say you need this or that. But basically, when you basically reference, like, the people who I want to help aren't here, you immediately hear Gale's voice calling to you. So you kind of have a recognition, like, there's something that has you in this place, and you've got to decide, like, what you need to be doing to get to it.
Yeah, so I guess so when he hears Gale, and he'll kind of looks around, doesn't see him, and he's gonna almost like look questioningly towards Jinx, um, almost like, did you know he's here as well? Um,
I would say for their reference to each other, on some level here, Gale and Jinx are connected to you. They don't experience each other in this scenario that I kind of have planned here. Um, there might be a weird point where I don't want to like stop them from necessarily role playing, but I do feel like it's more important to kind of recognize that their connection to the ethereal is through you, Dalton. So they don't necessarily experience each other. Maybe we'll kind of drop that idea once you guys are side to side. But I think at present here, Jinx would not hear the voice of Gale.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so I think now hearing Gale's voice, after he said, he's gonna look again towards the creature and uh perhaps I misspoke. I hear a friend calling for me now. Be rude not to see what he needs. I should go speak with him. And I don't know if he has any sort of sense of kind of where he hears the voice from, but he's going to try and start essentially moving in that direction, kind of looking for Gale, and kind of like he'll go to almost like kind of like pat Jinx on the shoulder, like not like no, almost not really, like forgetting for the moment that like they're not really physically here, and he'll almost be like kind of whisper to like, "Come on, Jinx." Uh,
So this place is pretty well lit, but it's not like lit with like say normal lighting. It's definitely a creepy kind of level of like ethereal sort of like I really like the fact that we had the conversation about like the dark sort of mystery with Chris at the start of this, like in those video games. This is definitely an other place like that. But I kind of want to go for the idea of like imagine sort of the green flame sort of lighting that often has like that kind of like I don't know underworldy kind of effect uh, on how this place is lit. So as you're walking through for most intents and purposes, like you start to like stop paying attention to sort of the other creatures are here. You can still maintain your focus here and there to sense some of the other things around you, but this is definitely one of those places where like Dalton's focus you'll notice more and more. Dalton's focus is what is generating those things around you. So as you start to ignore different things, they're just not there anymore. So as you kind of like allow all of the demons, devils, undead, lost souls to stop like impacting and like scaring you, you also stop to perceiving them and it's like this is an empty hall again. So, on some level, walking through here, you're back to effectively in this massive 120-foot long empty hall, doors at the end of it. There's stairs leading up north and south of you that you come to first as you head east. And then there's a long hall that's sort of like I'm gonna go for sort of that infinity sort of stare. You can't tell what's beyond in each way, but basically up to the north, it's a long, wide 20-foot, 10-foot wide hall that goes on for some ways before it gets narrower. To the south, it's a long, wide hall that goes on for some ways before it seems to turn to the west. And then it seems to continue on to the south but in the long run, like, I don't wanna reveal, like, the whole way, but there's basically, like, that kind of, like, infinite regress of when you stare down those halls, you have a sensation of stuff being down there, but after a while, it feels infinite, and it's almost, like, dizzying, like, to try to focus that far because your perception gets, like, strained. But yeah, how what are you kinda thinking as you're, like, looking through? Um, do you kinda pop down one of these halls? Do you want to make, like, a circle of this room first and try to see what you can, like, sense of Gale?
Yeah, so I think I'll kind of like as he's moving down the hall, probably towards one of these longer halls, maybe the south, just because he's a little bit closer to that one. He's gonna start kind of like I think like calling out for Gale, kind of periodically looking back to kind of make sure he's still, Jinx is still with him as well, or he can see, um, Jinx. And I think as he's like calling out, he's trying to, um, like, I don't know, I don't know if he realizes that, like, as he stops kind of like focusing on the other creatures, whether um, he kind of like almost like doesn't realize he doesn't notice them anymore. Like they kind of just fade away from his consciousness entirely. But I think he's trying to.
You can refocus on them, so as you notice them disappear, you could easily, like, play around with the idea, and, like, as soon as you notice they've disappeared, like, that thought of they've disappeared is you thinking about them, and you notice them again. So you almost notice that you have to, like, consciously be focused on them to experience them.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I think to that end, he's going to like hearing Gail's voice. He's gonna try to like. I think he's gonna start kind of going down this hallway and almost trying to like picture like he's going to like try to almost picture like the first time that he met Jinx and Gale, and he's going to um I think almost maybe go to open one of these doors, probably like the first one he comes to, and he's just trying to essentially like think like Um, almost trying to convince himself that this is all just some weird, strange trip nightmare kind of thing, and that he's going to open the door and Jinx and Gale and all the other people are going to kind of be there waiting for him.
Gotcha. So as far as things go, like as you head to the east to approach one of those hallways, specifically the one south, you're drawn to the kitchen still. You want to cook and feed people. You want to serve people. You're like reminded, no, no, Gale. Like you got to focus on Gale. You don't find yourself walking towards the hall. You basically like go to the end of this room. Gail, you see the silver cord that you're following, and with each kind of like call of your name, you see as it like brightens into this white like beacon of light, and you can kind of like sense closer and closer. All you have to do is sort of open the doors to you, Gail, and you can kind of step through to Dalton. Effectively, at that point, I'm going to put Gail on the map there. When you kind of are drawn towards that hallway, you have like your kind of sense of Gale draw your eyes to the east. When you are kind of like focused on that thought of finding him, you're basically going to be blinded for a moment by actual like white light. As those doors open, Gale steps through, and it kind of like drops back into sort of like his presence is not so completely like blinding to you at this point. But basically he steps through from that room and kind of into your presence. But you can see Gale before you, pretty similar fashion again as the that Jinx is in. Um, and you can kind of see like Gale, probably the big difference, actually like is sort of like following. I feel like it might be a little too personal, say like holding your ethereal like Heather, but Gale is basically you can see following that like connection between your body and this place.
So I think as Dalton kind of after like kind of his eyes sort of refocus after the blinding light, and he sees Gale having kind of appearing walking through I guess those doors, he's gonna just like kind of like shout out, no, Gale, uh, glad to see you. Sure. Jinx and I here. I wasn't sure at first, but I think I'm ready to go home. Can, can you help?
So you have a sense of where you are. You, Gale, like know you're like in the necropolis. You don't necessarily have a sense of like where you were or what this hall is in front of you. But I mean, you're welcome to offer any help that you think that you have at this point. But there's definitely a sort of a sense where like Gale's stepping into a different place. Like he's here for Dalton. He's connected to Dalton. But like, yeah, like at present, I feel like there's a certain level of they're here to help you.
Okay.
My bad. That's just as much of an invitation to Chris, like how to answer if he can help, if he has any ideas.
Yeah, no general ideas. I just probably just glad to see you, Dalton. Not sure how, but I'll help you whatever way I can.
So Dalton is going to kind of nod and gratefully towards Gale, and he's going to turn and look back if he can see the gates that he had initially walked through. Are they in fact like closed behind him? Those massive black gates.
Yeah, this will kind of get to a similar kind of experience of as you like look back. Like at this point, you almost like don't see that end of the hall until you like focus your attention towards those gates, and you'll see just almost like an infinity like zoom away that's so far off into the distance you can see those dark obsidian black gates closed before you, and there seems to be some sort of doorman just kind of sitting or standing beside the door in this like nice black suit. And if you got close enough or focus enough that you would see it's that same hideous ogre with like the souls inside of it just standing beside the store.
Gotcha. So Dalton's going to kind of look towards Gale and towards Jinx, and maybe there's a back way out, and um, he's going to move towards the doors, I guess, that Gale had come through, and try to go through there.
Gotcha. Roll a d100 for me.
99.
Womp, 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 womp. So as you open those doors, there is a small, what is that, like 80 foot by 80-foot chamber ahead of you. There is a massive black stone, like circular dais at one end of it that takes up about a third of the hall to itself, and on top of it sits a massive stone obsidian chair that is probably about 3 to 4 times your size. And it sits atop this dais that sits probably about 3 feet above the actual ground. Large vaulted ceilings. There's tapestries all around this room, and the room's made of kind of like a white sort of like grayish marble, but is otherwise empty.
So I think Dalton is going to he's going to start looking at some of these tapestries. Do, like what sort of scenes do they like? Do they depict? Like, are they kind of like anything like he would recognize, like personally, or
Make a religion check.
15?
So as you look around, these tapestries depict creatures beyond your typical sort of experience of things. Perhaps most of them are most closely demonic in nature, but vastly kind of looking over these things, it's almost like looking at sort of the titans in comparison to the Greek gods. You can see qualities of like how we often speak of gods, but these are things that are so much more primordial, so much older, so much larger, and more just grandiose than like your typical demons and devils. And all of them sort of depict this kind of interplay of sort of like dark red, sort of brooding creatures from below, and like creatures of light sort of fighting from above. All of them, all around this room, are this like just flow of battle death and destruction. You can see some of the tapestries have the bloodlust and the darkness beating away the light. Some of the times you have the light kind of consuming the creatures of darkness, but no tapestry is entirely one, no tapestry is entirely the other, and they just kind of cycle. If you just kind of like almost like spin and appreciate them, slowly turning in 360 degrees, just kind of cycle with a rise of the darkness and the bloodlust, a destruction of the darkness and the bloodlust is the rise of the creatures of light, and then it kind of fades into darkness and bloodlust, and it just kind of like almost goes back and forth on itself as you kind of like spin around and look at the like story of these tapestries.
Gotcha. Yeah, and as Dalton kind of does that, yeah, he kind of does the slow 360 spin, and he's taking these in, and you can see like in some the darkness is winning, and some the light seems to be winning, and what first comes to his mind is that this is like our, you know, he's almost thinking like our tapestry is being written right now, right? There's the night of dissolution, the demons, the something is going on, darkness is rising again, and you know one of the someday there's going to be another tapestry in this room, and one side's going to be one, and he's thinking you know I need to maybe hubris speaking, but he's thinking need to be there so I can help kind of put my foot on the scales, and aid Jinx and Gale and all the others. And I think that's going to kind of make him maybe give him a little, even more resolve, like we need to get out of here. And I think he's going to turn, he's going to look at Jinx and Gale and come on, we're getting out of here. And he's going to point kind of down like the infinite kind of seeming hall back towards that creature in front of the gates, and going to say, we have to fight our way out. I'll do it, but I'm walking back through those gates.
Gotcha. So Jinx and Gale, you're both beside him. Like you guys can see these tapestries just as much as he can. But do either of you have any thoughts as he kind of comes to you and like points down this hall? And kind of, I mean, for Gale, it's the first time you'll kind of spot this creature, but these dark obsidian gates just kind of like barring that direction. Do either of you have any thoughts? Do you guys head down?
Yeah, that's right, buddy. We got to get out of here. Got to go home. Come on back now. Let's go. Lead the way.
So head back off to the west and you kind of like move towards this creature. What are your thoughts? Do you want to like head over and like force the doors open? Do you want to like head off and just like attack this creature? Who's kind of like standing like a butler at the front door?
So not he doesn't want to attack it, but I think he's just going to essentially try to ignore it, and just almost like pretend like, of course the gates are going to open. I'm just going to walk and push them back open and just go out right back out the way I came.
Gotcha. So as you go to that door, kind of heading across this hall, just sort of ignoring the ogre, like it fades from view as if it's not even there, and your perception just isn't even kind of focused on it. There's nothing but the gates, and you can kind of see like your peripherals are consumed with like Jinx on one side of you and Gale on the other side, and you just head towards the door. When you go to like push your hand out to kind of force the door open, let me have you roll a religion check. Oh, I just had you do a religion. That's boring. And eight's pretty bad anyways. What's the difference on Arcana? What is your Arcana's got to be better than your religion with him?
Unfortunately not. They're both just a +1.
Gotcha. Yeah. So as you kind of like reach out, you see is like the separation between the doors, like where the obsidian's like been like carved or molded into this like intricately carved door, sort of like disappears as if like the door becomes one solid piece of stone with your presence to reach out to it. And you just hear from the entrance, from this door, from something beyond it, from something inside of it. Your spirit is welcome to enter this place, not to leave. You're the masters now.
Um, yeah, so Dalton is going to kind of turn back as he hears that. And he's going to kind of like, again, he's going to look towards Gale and Jinx and trying to more to like bolster his kind of spirits and resolve, and looking towards this thing again. And he's just going to kind of shake his head and do not accept that. It's always a choice.
It's not actually the ogre that's speaking to you there. When you kind of like turn, is that what you were like responding to? Is to the ogre?
I guess he was probably expecting to see the ogre, but he would say that regardless of kind of if he saw like what or if he saw anything on the other side.
No,
But he was
that's
definitely
fine. Like the ogre would be there when you like turn, but as you like say that to the ogre like kind of like looks to you and I didn't tell you you can't leave. My bad. I like forgot the actual language that you said it with, but it basically responds in a way like where like you kind of recognize like the ogre doesn't know what was just said to you. Um, this would be another kind of sensation for you of like that ogre doesn't exist unless you're thinking about it in the same way, kind of like when you go to leave the door, whatever is the door, like kind of only exists when you have a door blocking your way. So it again kind of like falls back to like you have unfinished business. It's inside of this place. And you sort of have to like figure out what it is.
gotcha.
I guess on some level, because I feel like it's kind of like getting beyond a little bit. This is where I'm trying to impress upon you, like you belong to the masters. On some level, Dalton's going to get to the effect of like Jinx already kind of suggested it. Like you have to ask to leave, and you're basically going to be kind of like responded on the same level of where it's like, well, you're here to see the masters, so you have to see Regal, and that's kind of like where things are going to. It's like you've come to this place for a reason. Nothing comes and leaves this place without seeing him.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So in that case, I think Dalton is going to he is going to start moving down the hall again, back towards the room with the throne and the tapestries. Um, and Yeah, I think essentially kind of like almost calling out to like the ether. All right, let's talk about this unfinished business then.
Gotcha. Like, are you thinking like you're gonna like go back into that room kind of thing?
Yeah, because he's thinking. I mean, with the throne, essentially, he's thinking like, okay, the master.
Gotcha. But you're just as much as kind of like almost like announcing like a herald, like if I need to see you, come see me. I'm coming for you. We need to speak. You know what I mean? Like you're almost just like kind of like yelling out, like somebody's listening to this. Something is making this happen, and so you're just like kind of calling out to that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost like summoning it. It's like, okay, like you want to talk, let's talk, and I'll be in your
Gotcha. As you
throne
throw
room.
open the throne room's doors again, let me have you roll a d100.
All right, 46.
So when you throw open, let me actually roll this set real quick. When you throw open the throne room this time and you're like kind of like calling out, you just see on the other side of the room there's a figure who's very fitting to the size of this throne. He seems to be in many senses just a normal man of 40, 45 years old, slight gray hairs in his otherwise like staunchly black head of hair. Like his hair comes down long behind his body. He's wearing pretty loose sort of linen clothing, not unlike many seafaring men that you would see like inside like the Bay of Tolus. All around, not like a crazy sight to see. But this person is like 25 feet tall. He's like four times the size of you. And he's just like sat on the other side of this room, kind of like on the throne room, in the very like quintessential thinking man position where he's got like his chin sort of in one hand. And as you like throw open the throne room doors, you see that moment where he sort of like slowly contemplatively sort of looks up at you and says, "And oh, can I assist you that you barge into my throne room? What are your needs?"
I need to go home, back to my friends, back to Tolis.
And you're being held here against your will.
So it would seem the gates would not open for me. I would be more than happy to see myself out.
Do not understand. Um, please come with me. And let me have you roll a charisma with proficiency here. So, whatever persuasion is probably the same as that, I would assume.
Persuasion is going to be more because I'm expert in it.
Gotcha.
So
Not your expertise, but just yeah, just give me a d20 plus whatever that is, like 8. I think 8 is your
uh,
with perfect.
be 7. So +4 from charisma and +3 from proficiency.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So d20 plus 7.
All right.
Yeah, so you're kind of like walking with this man and he kind of like crosses this area, and this is going to be the experience of where this hall seems like infinite to you. Watching this person of this size stepping across this place, you can see how this is kind of a large house to somebody of this size sort of thing. He's not specifically like a giant where I would say he's like a typical giant, but it definitely has like giant qualities as far as things go. But he kind of like heads across the hall. He sort of like looks to this creature that's right beside the gate, and he kind of like looks down to it. Are the gates shut to my friend here? As he kind of looks to you, and you'll just see as like this like ogre kind of like looks towards you. This person doesn't react in the least bit as if there's some horrifying like ogre in front of him, but you see this thing with writhing souls inside of its belly, and it kind of like looks over and the gates are not barred to him. He can leave at his will. And you see as like the like tall like man like Ragal kind of like steps towards the gates and just kind of like opens up his hand, and you'll see as like the stone like shatters in like as you're looking at it, that little bit that kind of like sealed up the two sides of this door. You're not crazy when you were barred from this place, but you just kind of have that moment where Regel's hand like outstretches towards the open gate, and the gates open, and you can kind of see like this like kind of path out before you. And let me get another perception from you here. Gail, let me have you do a perception with advantage. So yeah, you're kind of like looking out into the same scene where you're like staring out and can kind of see like those four vampires, and like you have this like moment of like thinking like, are my friends flat? No, none of us have bodies here. These vampire creatures are not focused on you guys. Gail, you 100% can like hear the ocean's waves like coming from afar, not nearby, but basically the dark reliquary is like the far eastern side of the necropolis. And Gale, you can 100% see all of the gravestones of the necropolis kind of like extending out before you. For you, Gale, this place is entirely easy to sort of see what you were walking out into, but you also see all of the graves of the Forsaken. No, the Fallen. The Fallen are actual, like, undead, demonic level of creatures, but you can basically see, like, all of the graves of these creatures that kind of come to life at night, and, like, the slight difference of, like, the graves of those who have sort of been put to, like, an actual eternal rest. Um, but you can see this all kind of extending out before you. But yeah, effectively, there's, like, a certain level of, like, with Rigel's will, you're sort of released from this place. Um, Let me get an insight from all three of you. Now, I think with asking that realistically, I just want you guys to all appreciate like you have this sensation of you were 100% barred from leaving, but Rigel was not barring you from leaving. You don't necessarily know like the full importance of this, but there's definitely that level of like his will was truth. And effectively his will that you were not barred from leaving freed you.
Gotcha. And is Rigel, like, did he actually like introduce himself as Rigel, or is that a name that I would know, like people would know, um, in general, like in terms of the religion mythology of Tullus?
Damn, I forgot how I said it the first time because I meant to not say it until I said it because there was the right impetus for you to have the name. I feel like I'm not sure why I thought you guys would have gained his name. Um, Make a history or religion check. Any of you guys can make this. This is going to be hard to be successful at unless you guys actually have a reason to know who Rigel is.
I'll make mine religion.
Ooh, actually, I think I'll make it a success because Gale could definitely be Arcana as well. I think it's kind of anything along those lines.
I got dirty 20.
Yeah, you guys all rolled high for that. A 15, 19, and a 14. Yeah. Um, I think all of you, for different reasons, can basically understand that people often talk about the impossibility of sort of coming in contact with Rigel. Nobody would ever walk into the Dark Relic. It is a place of death. You don't just walk into the Dark Reliquary. Um, so that's one thing to kind of appreciate here. Everything that you would have ever known basically tells you not to go into this place. With that in mind, just like with a lot of myths, there's often good and bad kind of hidden inside of these like old wives' tales. And the oldest beings that are ever talked about in Tolis are Rigel and his wife Lilith. They are the two who sit at the throne within the Dark Reliquary. But everybody only ever talks about them in myth. Nobody ever talks about them as if they were still alive. Um, so I think that's kind of like what you would sort of have is plenty of thoughts of like these mythological figures. But you're still technically speaking in his presence, as he's basically opening up these gates before you.
Gotcha. Yes, I think Dalton is going to kind of look up and he would have I don't know what he didn't know what he was expecting, in terms of who he was actually going to speak to, who the master was, aside from again kind of this vague idea of having these names. And I think he's probably expecting like some horrid, like demonic looking thing, and it's just like essentially like a pretty normal seeming person, which takes him aback a bit. And once kind of he follows back across the hall, and once the kind of Regale kind of essentially opens the gates for him, um, Dalton is going to kind of look up, um, and give like give a nod and um, much obliged. Uh, until we meet again, I suppose. Um, kind of trying to take a little bit of the edge off with a joke, and then um, unless there's anything else you would tell me, I think I'll time for me to go.
Yeah, I think he would have just sort of a cordial, sort of well-mannered response of just sort of welcoming and just kind of a response to the effect of like, most certainly you are always welcomed in my home. If you ever require to call on me, do not hesitate. It would be wonderful to see you again.
Yes. Yeah, and Dalton is kind of like trying to think of a diplomatic response, like I never want to be back here again. But he just like yes, yes. Um, uh, well, again, until we meet again, and then he'll kind of maybe a slightly yeah, and then he will kind of go to walk through the gates and try to not let on as much of like yeah, he's like I never you seem like a nice guy, but I don't want to ever want to see you again, kind of thing.
So I'd say largely with the thought of like I don't ever want to see you again, you're going to lose kind of sight of the Dark Reliquary. You'll be just kind of along this path, sort of Gale at this point, probably focusing you on following back this ethereal string that's kind of floating before you. And more or less, you're simply going to walk back. Don't know how long it takes you. This could be again seconds, minutes, weeks, years. The experience of time within the ethereal plane here is going to be other. But yeah, you effectively are going to sort of rise with a gasp as Dalton kind of like comes back to, and you are surrounded by Knights of the Pale. You have Sister Torella kind of standing over you to the west, and like 15 of these knights sort of right behind, like circling you, but right behind like your five friends kind of standing like right beside you, all of them kind of with these like, different trinkets and objects that are close to you. Like, Jinx kind of holding these gloves, kind of like leaned over in prayer over you, and you just kind of like jut up with your chest kind of like lifted into the air, with like a breath. The candle that Sister Torella has set by his head just sparks into flame, and by the time his body kind of like sets back down on the actual like dais that he's like laying across, that candle like goes from like sparks into flame to completely kind of burns out, and like consumes all of the wax. There's just that like snuff of flame as Dalton is back to breathing normally within his body. Guys rolled really well on the tests. I wasn't going to put it at just a test. You are going to be faced with the Dark Reliquary every single time you guys experience death and want to come back. So that is a taste of what is inside of there. But it also was a invitation to explore it in a way that it's far safer than if you guys ever go as living creatures. So that was like a little bit of it. Next time Dalton dies, though you guys rolled really, really well this time, next time it will be more difficult for Dalton in particular, in the same way where it's theoretically more difficult for Bob here. But yeah, at this point, I think that's kind of like the vast idea of what I had prepared for the ritual experience. Um, but yeah, you guys have Dalton back. What is the first thing that everybody does as Dalton kind of sparks back into life and you hear these first few breaths? Dalton, you feel your body again. You can feel the weight of yourself against the ground. And again, like for Dalton's experience, you don't know whether this was seconds since you died to the to those unholy chaos like nights, not nights, but you don't know whether it was like seconds, hours, like what this hallucination of time was between now and then.
So Jinx would definitely like come up from his prayer and like kind of drape himself partially over Dalton and give him a big old hug. Hey, buddy, I knew you were gonna come back. I fucking knew it. You had us there for a minute, but I knew you were coming.
And Dalton, in response, is going to kind of wrap his arm kind of in like a almost like bear hug around Jinx, and kind of give a maybe like a bit of a weak laugh, and I don't think I'd have made it back without you. And then he'll kind of and then look towards Gale, and Gale, you as well. How long was I gone? And then he almost kind of like hesitates, like, what's how long has it been? What's happened?
You were gone, buddy, long enough to realize that we're not just friends. We're family. And Jink's gonna lean in real close and just whisper just loud enough for Dalton to hear in his ear. While you were dead, I put my finger in your eye hole. I hope you forgive me.
Dalton's gonna, yeah, he'll kind of again laugh at that and maybe like just and then wince because presumably it probably taking a little bit out of him coming back from the dead, and just this once, I forgive you.
I'm just fucking with you, buddy. Just wanted to see you smile again. Or am I? And Jinx would be like visibly, like happy, you know what I'm saying? But probably still like crying a bit, just glad that it worked.
Roll a Constitution check for me, Dalton.
Sure. Be a 16.
As you wince, you're going to notice you have an eyeball. Was it your left eye that you were blinded in?
I believe it was my left. Yeah.
Yeah, your left eye, like you're not blinded anymore. Like that eye socket is filled again. Because that's what it was. Like, didn't your eye get torn out? Like it wasn't just a blinding?
It was
Or
like
am I doing it?
I think it was like essentially frozen in
Yeah,
place.
it was the frost blast. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so when you kind of like wince here, like at the thought of like Jinx kind of putting his like finger in your eye hole, like you kind of like wince and like reach for your eye, like it's like most of your life you're used to experiencing that eye, and there's that like moment before you even like recognize like you're not blind, you're not missing that eye. Like nobody necessarily told Sister Torella to resurrect you without that eye. You've been resurrected with that eye.
Gotcha. So actually, kind of Dalton maybe even like expecting the eye to be kind of the same like it was before, kind of just like a frozen, unseeing thing. Like he might even like poke himself a little too hard in it, and just like and he'll like how, and then realize like as he's saying Al's like, and then he'll kind of like feel around again. It's like, and then he'll look towards Jinx and Gale and Sister Torella, and no, that's a unexpected bonus.
Yeah, I think the general sort of like response from the eunuch at that point would be essentially along those lines of oh, welcome back, friends. What is this unexpected bonus? And basically, Sister Torella doesn't really understand because again, like as far as things go, like without the idea like that you didn't want to have an eye, like it's normal to resurrect a person with their full body if that's what you're doing. And that's what she was doing. And there's that level of, they'll kind of like catch you up to, like even Dalton out. I don't necessarily think I need to role play all of those things from the NPCs. But there's definitely like a level of, um, Billy Dalton's met Sister Torella. You've met some of the Knights of the Pale. So they're just kind of like catching you up so you don't necessarily feel completely lost of where you are.
Yeah. I would assume like and then Gale and Jinx and all can give him kind of any, a recap of everything. So yeah, I don't think there's any need to, go into it in detail.
Back from the dead, but not undead. Let's go, success.
Yeah, I think Dalton is going to yeah, and like kind of they can recap kind of what they saw, and Dalton kind of maybe at first like doesn't uh still not quite sure he grasps like okay, Gale and Jinx were there but not there, but eventually he'll like kind of give them the rundown, like the actual them of like kind of what he experienced as well.
Gotcha. You'll pick up a little bit more because they experienced similar things effectively. Like as long as they were focused on you, they were drawn towards the ethereal in like their prayers to you. So again, each of them kind of experience those things, and you'll start to pick up as you say like this or this. You might start to notice like them kind of claiming, "Oh yeah, I remember like that moment." But you will kind of also come to realize that like neither of them was experiencing the other one, because they will kind of have those moments of like, "Oh, holy shit, you were there too, Gail? I didn't even know. I thought it was just me."
Yeah, and Dalton will kind of oh go ahead.
Oh no, you're good to go there.
I was gonna say Dalton kind of like after the whole catch up and stuff before he leaves, he's just gonna kind of to Sister Torella, um, just if there's ever anything I can do, um, you have but to ask.
Uh, she might give you a big smile, and you kind of like see on some level she's like playing around with the irony of you're offering her a favor and she only has to ask for it. But yeah, like they'll definitely like take your appreciation there. You guys can go through the process of resurrecting um Bob. Can I have Chris roll a D100 for me, please? You got to roll less than 18. Or wait, no, less than 82.
Yeah, that failed. 89.
Alrighty. So you don't quite have enough of the Graves Bane as she's like going through the process of reviving Bob. You definitely kind of like see this sort of like stress across her face. I don't want to extend this one. I want to kind of take a break here. But let me have the three of you roll D20s, and we'll just go for an average of between you that we can add 15 to the total roll.
I mean, 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
All right, cool. I was looking for 30 on that one. So overall, you guys hit. Oh, wait, what just happened there?
I think that's 21 total between the three of us. Right, 10, a 4, and a 7, I think it was.
Yeah. But like the plus 15 modifier, and I was looking for 30. So you guys
Oh,
did roll high enough. In the long run, what this is going to come down to is I don't know how many Harry Potter fans there are on this, but I like the idea of splinching, where a little bit of you is sort of left behind. I want one of you to roll. Let's go for a d6. One is the head. No, one is the torso. 6 is the head. And we'll do torso, right arm, right leg, left leg, head. Is that 6? I feel like that's 6. Yeah. Doesn't leave an opportunity for the tail.
1 torso.
Maybe it's better to call that the tail, because that's what I was already thinking. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with that idea that basically you guys like go to revive Bob, and Bob has like a massive chunk of her tail effectively like is not sort of reconnected. As far as the revive process goes, you can indeed use Bob again. But basically, like with how like she's like splinched in the revivification process, the using up of all of the Graves Bane that you had, you basically like have this like little bit of her tail that sort of fails to be successfully brought back to life with the rest of her body. So not going to be something that regenerates on Bob over time. I'm going to try to put a note in my notes at least to remember that Bob kind of has this like thing to constantly remind her that she has died in your service. But let's take a break here and come back and we'll kind of pick up. It gives us like 35, 40 minutes or so, like before 7, that we can kind of decide what we might do today to fill this time. That was generally what I had planned, though.
Yeah, I know that kind of focused a lot on Dalton, but that was a lot of fun. I like the whole um, yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed that. Um, so I will yeah, I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm definitely moved by Jinx's and Gail's words. So I'm back.
Yeah, welcome back.
More ways than one, right?
Definitely more ways than one.
All right, I'm back as well. Do you guys have any other thoughts about like where you want to take things? Do we want to sort of like figure out some of the events that transpire as we come to the present? Any thoughts about where we should go with kind of an odd half hour here?
Um,
Like, I mean, if we want to, where I could easily start like the precursor to like going back into like the sewers and stuff. Um, but I feel like we're not going to get anywhere with a half hour there. It really does require like a full session. Um, do you want to figure out? Do you want to role play some of the experience of Dalton moving forward here?
I mean, I'm good to. I don't want to. I mean, we already focused on Dalton for pretty much most of the session, so I'm good to kind of. I mean, like I said, he's probably going to take some time to recover, and so he probably won't be rejoining, depending on how much time passes between when we kind of pick up again with the adventuring. Um, so he might kind of, take some time to himself. Uh,
It's kind of the weird thing. I definitely invite you to take the time that you want here, but I think we went in on the apartment on the start of October. So technically a month about it is about to expire or go by. This is like October 2nd in Tolis timeline.
yeah. So I'm thinking probably, a month is long enough for him to kind of get things out of his system and kind of recover and all that and stuff. So, I don't know if like if you're open to
So
just
just to be
doing.
clear, that would be like you're welcome to play Dalton next week. That gives him like a little over a month to recover.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I don't know if you're
All right,
like,
hell yeah.
I was thinking maybe like, to like cover that month if we would, if, we don't have to do it tonight, but like maybe like, over the week too, like essentially if we wanted to do, I feel like there are some like, because if he's off kind of like carousing and stuff for a month, essentially just sort of, which was kind of my original idea, like just kind of like, um, celebrating the fact that he's back. Um,
I think one thing about that is I think also the people who didn't die are just as likely to kind of do that same thing where you almost like look to this weird impending disaster and sort of all of you have the same kind of like fuck it attitude of like we just saw how mortal we actually are. You know, there's nothing to say that Jinx isn't just as frivolous. I would wonder what Gale would do, but you guys all have sort of that same downtime. So you can definitely think about that and feel how close that death is to you, even if you're not specifically Dalton who went through it.
I definitely was thinking too. Maybe we could knock this out in our little bit of time. Like some of the bookkeeping. Like I would like to sell off some of the extra stuff. Make sure nobody wants any of these extra magic items. Definitely gonna do some reckless gambling.
Yeah, that is perfectly fine. We can definitely start and end, like end and start with like the actual, downtime. I'll keep track of that you did some of the downtime with Jinx, but even if you think of something between now and next week, we can probably have plenty of time that you could sneak it in. So, do you have a list that you want to talk over with everybody else? You want to post it in Discord, and let people think about it before you sell stuff?
No, I'll
But
just
otherwise,
I'll say it to you guys right now, and you let me know if you have any interest in it. So we had that, and then I think Chris took the bracers already. I have down as. I'm wearing the studded leather. So I still have the +1 spear on the list, the +1 breastplate, and then the amulet, the wand, and the ring.
So the spear and the breastplate, definitely probably not something Dalton would be interested in.
Dalton, you will wake up with your special item from the Dreaming Apothecary. So theoretically, you now have that. What was it? Displacement studded leathers.
Okay, yeah, yep. I was gonna ask. I figured, at some point, like, yeah, during the downtime, he would get it, or if he just kind of like,
Yeah, your body has it, but you basically also know, like, the Dreaming Apothecary, like, recognized something was wrong with you, but your body effectively had those.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. What was the wand again? It was a wand of. Did we ever figure that out?
Ooh, I feel like it was said at one point in time, but I did not write down what it was. It was something
Wand of
charging back
Acid
then.
Curse. I'll drop it in Discord.
Okay, and then also, I don't know if you guys have been interested at all in the dragon weapons. I've obviously been using them here and there, but we have like plenty of them. We have 2 of the rifles, we have the double pistol, and then I think we have like at least 3 more pistols that I have on my list.
Yeah, I think at this point you guys have that many. I should put a
Yeah.
break quotient in on them. My bad, Justin.
I was thinking. I was thinking. I don't know if it's obviously it would take longer than a month, but if as part of our downtime we tried to start looking for somebody who could actually kind of um, like either like train us in their use, or we could spend some of our gold and stuff, like essentially. I don't know if they have, if Tolis has something the equivalent of a firing range, or if we just try to find some place, kind of some sort of alley out of the way, and like essentially try to get more familiar, like proficient with these sorts of
Let me
weapons.
have you guys roll. Tell me what you think would be your solution to finding. Hmm. The problem that I think is you've got a lot of different options, and I feel like it's better for me to just say what I'm thinking than to ask you what you guys would go after, because I'm kind of tempted to say one problem is do you want to find somebody who can train you and pay them to do it? do you have access, or can you find enough ammunition and black powder to fire it as much as learning how to use it would require? Do you go to like ranges and like test your skills like that without somebody guiding you? Just kind of like how you would solve the problem of gaining proficiency, because I think vastly it's just a question of how much money do you throw at the problem. Um and then like
Yeah,
testing against it.
I was definitely thinking the same thing, Justin. That's definitely a great recommendation about trying to get like proficient in them. So I would definitely be down for that. I think dedicating the time and resources for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I was starting to design one for Malchin and then I kind of stopped. Um, I think the biggest thing is like those dragon rifles, because of their rarity, are just more expensive. I think Tasha's has a pretty solid system kind of lined up. But yeah, I think largely that's going to be a question of how much money do you throw at it. Because yeah, I definitely think, there's guards of like specifically Dalengard, which is the old kind of castle. Let me circle it here. It was like the original defensive point in Tolis. That's a line. That's not what I want. But effectively, like those were simply the people who have used the guns longest. It wouldn't be hard for you guys to hire somebody to train. You would probably have an easier time finding the ammunition and the powder with somebody who's basically like, I mean, I honestly almost you'd have to pay them sort of like a lawyer, where there's like a certain retainer that you pay them. They use up enough of what they don't want to be their profit, and then they would charge you again. But I think that's kind of like the biggest thing there. You guys want to like go through with like trying all three, like having a trainer, seeing how successful you are finding ammo, and then like also just your own range time. You want to go two of those? Do you have other things that you think?
I have like 26 shots currently, so we definitely have enough to like do like a range or whatever, shoot off a couple. But I would be down to either. I would be pretty much down for any of them. I think the real thing is like I think I would go first towards the people that are experienced with them, and then also just like actually using them.
Gotcha. So you're thinking, let's get an expert, let's get some range time. You want to do all three. Does that sound good to Dalton?
Yeah, and I think it makes sense to like try and find a trainer first, so that we don't like because we're going to obviously use a bunch of
Yeah.
ammunition in the training, but if we have a trainer first, that at least cuts down on how much we're going to waste, kind of just trying to figure it out on our own.
Gale, would you like to learn how to use the dragon rifles? Do you want to get Imperial papers and learn any of the dragon weapons at all, Gale?
I don't think Gale is too interested in that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, it also doesn't keep you from like still holding one and just not using the proficiency. One of the things that I think about is, on some level, it is a simple solution that might bypass the most often done things that would neutralize your powers. I don't know. Might be good to have something outside of your normal wheelhouse. But yeah, let me get I think charisma with expertise. If you've got expertise, oh wait, no, that's because you're a rogue. So yeah, let me just get your charisma persuasions as you guys go out and start to talk around Dalengard and look for an expert to start to train you. So what is that, like a plus 12 or plus 10?
I'm at 15.
Yeah, it would be +10 for me, but if we don't use expertise, it would be a +7. So
No, expertise is what I asked for. Yeah, so I'd say you guys go out and maybe one day, the two of you are kind of like going around Dalengard looking for somebody who seems skillful and then also basically doesn't just turn you down as like I'm too busy to help, but you guys eventually kind of like meet back up and uh Dalton has found someone to train you. Dalton, would you give me a name and can you describe this person who's basically a guard in Tolis? Would you like to name and give me a basic description of that person?
Sure. So for a name, let's go with Davrick.
D as in Davrick? Like
Yeah.
for
So
Davrick?
I'll put it in Discord. Yeah.
Often I forget that saying the same name, saying the same thing doesn't clarify anything.
Yeah. So D.
Excellent.
And then for a description, I think probably going to be someone. I don't know, like the my first thought is like a dwarf, but like the dwarves in Tolis are kind of
Very
like the
rare. They're
yeah.
the ancient people of this land, but yeah, there's definitely dwarves, and this is one of the places where they would be. So maybe at this point, if you want to go with a dwarf, Davrick is actually one of the actual keepers and isn't an actual guard of Tolis. He effectively is somebody who saw you walking around and like asking for assistance. And at some point, Davrick actually approaches you and says like, "Those are some mighty fine firearms that you have. I've noticed you walking around and talking to the different guards for assistance. And let me have you roll a D100, Dalton. Uh, Jinx, will you roll me 5d6?
Split it down the middle, 50.
Excellent. 2.5d6. Oh my god. Um, for the price of 5 gold, and you look at he's like looking at you as if he's charging you a shitload for this. For the price of 5 gold, I'd be willing to help you in what you need to learn.
Yeah, all right. Say no more, Davrick. We got you. I'll pull out one of my bribe bags. 10 gold, 5 apiece, 2 of us. You better be good.
He just kind of like looks at you for a moment. He's like, "That's just your bribe bag that you just have 10 gold red, and I knew I should have asked for 100." But he'll like spit into his palm and go to shake your hands and make an agreement. So yeah, you guys can have his services for 5 gold. Um, let me have you guys do. I don't know. I feel like history, investigation. No, let's just go with your primaries here. Um, Persuasion effectively is your highest D20 plus proficiency. You guys are using his expertise basically with that. Going around to find enough powder for you guys to practice. Let me have you guys each roll a D20 with those modifiers, please.
I have a total of 13.
And it'd be a
Gotcha, and
23.
that's 23. Um, Let me have just to keep Chris in the mode right here. Chris, can you roll me a D100, please?
66.
Alrighty. So it is going to Yeah. You can find enough ammunition for this test for 220 gold. It's a basically like 50 shots a piece for 220 gold. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, Dalton can will pay for that.
Gotcha. And then
So wait, is that 220 a piece or 220 total?
my bad, 220 a piece.
Okay, okay.
And then let's go for just like persuasion advantage for the final roll here. And then Chris, can you roll 4d6 for me?
That is 12.
Oh,
So
Karina just
Jinx
fucking
is
forgot. Oh, wait,
26 total. Oh, sorry. My bad.
26.
And it's a nat 20, so 30 for Dalton.
All right, so 56 and Chris rolled 12. So for 5 gold, you guys can get the range where you need the time to go shooting. So this is going to be one test towards, I think I said with Chris, it would be 3 successes that he needed to gain the proficiency. So this is just the cost to do the test and see how you guys progress over like this 1 month period of shooting. But let me have each of you fire basically your firearms. Just with whatever essentially your dex modifier is at this point. I don't know specifically, but I'm pretty sure Jack of all trades does not affect attacks that you lack proficiency on. I'm pretty sure it's just skill checks. But if you went with like an unarmed attack, does it give you half proficiency?
Are we just rolling D20? Is that what you said, or what did you say?
Well, what I'm asking is if like D&D Beyond gives you half proficiency on an unarmed strike, something that you are not proficient in. I'm pretty sure Jack of all trades does not, but I also think an attack might be an ability check. Does
It
D&D Beyond give you that?
it looks like it does for me because my unarmed strike to hit is +4, and my oh wait no yeah, it's not wouldn't be proficient in that. My dex is +3. So it would
Yeah,
kind of
my unarmed strike is +1, so it does give you the bonus to your
You got a
proficiency
flat
bonus.
dex with Jinx?
Oh wait, no, because the proficiency bonus would be +3. So my dex is +3, but my unarmed strike is +1.
Yeah, I feel like my unarmed strike should only be +1 because I always felt like unarmed strike is strength based, not dex based. That's weird.
Yeah, but why
Yeah, it
wouldn't your
is.
fist be light?
Unarmed strike is strength based, and my strength is negative, so that's why. It gives you +3 and then subtracts 2 for a total of +1. So it does add your proficiency bonus. I'm
Oh,
just
you're
-3 strength.
proficient in unarmed strike. Oh, okay, my bad. Um, I'm sticking with the idea where I'm pretty sure it doesn't go. That was the wrong test. I didn't even think about the fact that you're proficient in unarmed striking.
Let me
Um,
I can add a strength based weapon and see what that ends up as being. To my sheet,
gotcha.
like temporarily.
I mean, didn't I actually create the guns? Oh no, I don't even think. I feel like I created the guns.
Oh wait, versatile means it can be.
Yeah, you got to be careful too with rogue that you don't have that proficient in it there too.
So it
While we're kind of
specifically
looking at,
says, Jack of all trades specifically says ability check. It doesn't already include it. It does not say anything about attacks or anything.
oh, part of what I was saying is D&D Beyond might actually know what I was asking, because I'm pretty sure attacks are not ability checks, but I feel like attacks might actually be. It's just not something I've looked at recently. That was
Okay.
part of why I was saying.
Okay, I think it does add it because so if I use a great sword, I have a +1 to hit. My strength is +0.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. So when you guys fire with your guns, you have a D20 +1 plus your dex.
Okay, I got nat 1 for mine.
Yeah,
Mine
you
wasn't
both
quite.
just fired like shit.
Yeah, that's a 10 for me.
Uh, 10 at least is enough that's what I was gonna ask for. Meets beats. So as far as things go, I would say with this like month of downtime or this block of downtime, Dalton can mark down a single success and we'll have Jinx with a fail. I think it's enough to say that would be like a week, but let me go and ask if Chris has any thoughts with Gale. Do you have anything in mind that Gale would be doing in his downtime?
Not really sure. I'm trying to think. How does making scrolls work?
Man, with that much time, it would just be a issue of money. I'm pretty sure with the Wizard of Scribes, you have half as much. So I'm pretty sure. No, wait, I said that wrong. I think you use half as much. So I'm pretty sure with you, it's like 50 gold a level. I think that's what it is. So like if you want, and then like a certain amount of like 8 or something hours probably per level. So like if you wanted to make a level 3 spell, you would have to put 150 gold into it and 24 hours, I think.
Yeah, there's a chart in Xanathar's that gives you the
That's what I
time.
was thinking. Xanathar's had a solid breakdown of crafting.
Yes.
Because the
So it
cost goes exponentially up, is what I was thinking about how I said.
so it looks like a first level, for example, says it takes 1 day and 25 gold. A second level is 3 days and 250 gold. And then a third level is a week or a work week,
And 2,500.
500. So it goes from 25 to 250, so it goes times 10, then times 2. So it says 500. And then fourth level is 2 weeks and 2,500. So it's not like directly exponential, but it increases
Yeah.
significantly as you go
Non-linear,
up.
non-exponential. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is also, if you wanted, a complications table.
What did you have in mind, Chris?
Yeah, just trying to get back to my character sheet. It's weirding out on me.
Oh, I got you. While you're doing that, I think that's a solid idea to have in mind to kind of queue stuff up. If we did, because normally I feel like we do at least like 2-week blocks on downtime, but theoretically, yeah, I think that probably sounds about best to say that was like 2 weeks of training, so you guys can't straight up get proficient over a month, but you could get 2 tries at it. Does that seem like too punitive? Do you guys think it's too quick to learn your proficiency, or do you want to have potentially 4 tries at it?
I feel like getting proficient would typically take more than a month, especially unless we're doing like absolutely nothing else. And also dragon pistols are so kind of different than like any weapons that we're already proficient with. Like it's essentially learning like a whole new system almost, I think. Like is
I
that
mean,
like
I don't
okay,
disagree with the thought. It's more to me just asking, like, do you guys feel like it would be too much to learn it in effectively, a months of downtime? But it is still like you guys are still adventurers. It's not a terrible mechanic for how things play out. It's more just a question of whether you guys feel like that's a good reward investment. But realistically, I've been surprised that you've not asked to get proficient this long into having them. That's part of why I wouldn't feel bad if you guys were proficient after today, because you've had them for like 5 months.
yeah. I feel like Jinx would have an advantage because he's used them more than Dalton has. Um,
Yeah, I don't disagree, but with like rolling a nat one there, that's a pretty solid example of somebody who learned bad habits before getting somebody who's a professional to train you how to do it. So I think it still works out narratively. But again, kind of what I was saying is if it doesn't feel cheap to you guys, I think it's legit to give you 4 tries. You would have to pay more, like up front here, but I'm not opposed to giving you 4 tries at gaining proficiency, like right now, between these games. Because it is effectively a month going by.
Yeah, so I would have to pass my next 3.
Yep, and Dalton has to pass 2 of the next 3.
yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I mean, I'm good with once 2 weeks too. But if we want to do once a week try, that works for me.
Gotcha. So let me have one of you guys roll 5d6. One of you guys roll a d100.
I'm gonna switch it up, Jinx. I'll roll the d6 and you roll the d100.
Okay, it's 74 on the D100.
And 19 on the 5d6.
So this time you guys find enough ammunition, like each of you to purchase, for 700 gold a person. So I guess really that also comes down to the idea of like you can skip this week of training if you think that is too expensive, but that's what you can find in the city right now. And theoretically, the barbarian sort of like stockade is still in existence, so that's part of where everything's more pricey.
Yeah, Dalton he'll go ahead and he can cover that. It might be difficult. He'll be running a little lower on funds after, or pretty much lower on funds after that. But yeah, he'll do it.
Do you guys want to try your hand at gambling in between these weeks?
Yeah, let's see how the
Just-
gambling goes first, because if we don't do well on that, I might be inclined to skip this week. That's a little bit pricey.
Gotcha. So let me have you guys think about what you want to gamble, what you want to wager for that week. Gail, do you have an idea of what you would like to craft?
Yeah, I would 3 second level spells. So Magic Missile at second level, Asleep at second level, and Rhymes Binding Ice at its regular level.
Rhymes Binding Ice is the 3rd level, though.
No, it's the second level.
Okay, I got you. Just the way you said that there. So that's a total of 5 spells that you're looking to do, second levels.
No, 3 spells at second level. So like Magic
Okay,
Missile.
so just 1 scroll each.
Yeah, just having them
Gotcha.
feel like when I used up my spell slot, it's like have a backup and have like a
Oh, for
couple.
sure. So yeah, just do magic missile first. Let me get an arcana check from you.
Oh, baby, yeah, that's 17.
All right, effectively then with second level, I'm just doing don't roll a one. The second one, I forgot what you said, but an arcana check, just don't roll a one. And then the third one, rhymes binding ice, arcana check, just don't roll a one. Excellent. Yeah, so you can create those three for 750 gold, over realistically a tenth, no, a third of this month. So after week one, how much do you think Jinx or Dalton would like to gamble?
So Dalton is probably a bit more reckless after his near-death experience. So I think he's going to wager. It said 700, so he's going to wager 350. See if he can double his money and pay for it.
Yeah, I've got 803 left. So I'll do the same thing. I would go right there with Dalton. I think the two of us go in, have us a good old night, indulging in our vices, and try to make it count.
All right, might be worth us also, if things change, reapproaching like selling the stuff before we do like the last 2 weeks tries. But yeah, let me see. Um, let's see. Feel like I've never actually gone through and rewritten my notes because I feel like I lost when I created that game. Um, I like doing a simple D20 just as a flat, see what you win like times a week. Um, is it legit to you guys if we just do a D20 roll off to see whether you come up or go down, and then I have you roll? Yeah, that's what I like that. And then I have you roll a percent if it's positive, or if it's if you guys won, it's times what you made, what you gambled. If you lost, it's lowers it. I'm saying that wrong, but yeah, I think just a simple D20, basically roll off to see whether you won or lost for the week. So Jinx first, you've got a victory. How much were you gambling? And roll a D100. So you get what you had plus 67%.
Okay, so I was 350 also, so it would be like around like 200. I'll do the math.
It's like 584 and a half.
Yeah. So you can take 585 there. But yeah, Dalton, same thing. D20.
Nope.
And then a percent. That's what it is, because now you can still roll low, and yeah, that's success.
Yeah, he lost a lot.
Dalton definitely is really appreciating life and not so cautious. Having just walked the halls of the Dark Reliquary, this might not even be like that you're gambling and losing it, and that you're drinking it away. You know what I mean? There's a
Yeah,
lot of different ways that you can appreciate that Dalton doesn't have money after this, or of that 350.
yeah, and he's spreading it around. He's throwing money around, buying drinks for everybody. Yeah, and probably getting drunk himself and playing. That's why he's partly why he's playing so badly, just making like terrible bets and like or just being like long shots that he'd never normally bet on. It's like I cheated death, so of course I'm gonna win, kind of thing.
Yeah, so do you want to treat with selling items before we go to that third week?
Sorry, just to clarify, so that means he lost 88% of what he gambled, right? That's how we're doing that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you've got what, like 35, like 42 gold kind of thing from that 350?
Yeah, works out to 308 exactly would be 88. So he's got 42 left of that. Yep.
what a fucking don't think I was doing the math in my head, but I was trying. But yeah, does it sound good then if we treat with the idea of you guys also trying to sell the stuff this week? Because that was part of what I meant. Like, I want it to be potentially expensive. I'm glad you guys rolled stupid high, but it doesn't also mean that you could sell stuff and get really lucky on like the price that you get and have plenty to spend 700 on it.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Did you tell us what the ring was? I don't have that written down.
Ring of Jumping.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you did tell us that. And I do feel like you told us the amulet was something, but that it wasn't magical. Is that right?
Yeah. The green spiral amulet, the broken square ring, and the 8-pointed arrow medallion are all chaos cults. So they all should reference to the book that you found in the Pythonese house, but not necessarily. They're all meant to basically see like 3 of those 4 priests, like 3 of those 4 people were chaos cultists of 3 different chaos cults, one of which was the Brothers of Venom. That's what was more important to pick up there than anything. But yeah, a ring of jumping, a +1 spear, um, a mace, breastplate, the double pistol. I feel like those were the big things to like question. Wand of Acidic Curse. Um, those were the big things that it was like whether you were going to sell or not. Because the studded leather armor is on Jinx. Flask of Acid and Flask of Alchemist Fire. Those are effectively probably worth like 20 to 40 gold. So you could potentially be looking to sell those. It's up to you. And then the bracers of defense are on Gale.
yeah, and Dalton still has a non-magical, just an emerald ring from the Pythonese house that he had been keeping, but I think now he'll
Do you
after his
have a
loss.
price? Do you have a price
It
set on that one?
it says it's worth 120 gold.
Excellent. No, that's why I like to give you guys the prices, and realistically why like sometimes I'm like telling you the names of stuff because it like feels weird. Like I don't want to identify it for you. I want like the identify spell to be important, but at the same time on the bookkeeping level of like not telling you and knowing that one day I'm going to have to look it up, it's just gets crazy.
So does anybody want the wand or the ring? Are any of these items jumping out at you? I don't have any interest in any of the stuff that we have left.
Unless Gale wants the wand of acidic curse, I'm good with. That's pretty nasty effect there.
And I feel like the +1 breastplate is like designed for somebody with low strength but can still wear armor. Is that what a breastplate's good for?
I think it's probably more for somebody who doesn't need rely on dex so much because I think the breastplate's medium armor, so I think it usually has a like you can only get +2 from dex maybe. So it's probably actually more for like a
Yeah.
strength based like a fighter kind of thing, or like a barbarian, or not a barbarian, they don't wear armor, but like a paladin or something like that.
Well, but I feel like it has really low armor class because, like, if the strength wasn't a problem, you would probably wear like a full plate or something like that, wouldn't you?
Well, full plate is 2,000 gold though. A breastplate I think is like 40.
Isn't it more like 400 or something? I feel like they're pretty expensive breastplates.
Oh, even 400 though is still a fraction of the plate, but I think that actually sounds right. I just can't remember if breastplate is one of the like beginner. But yeah, like the actual like mechanics of it, I think is not necessarily as important to people like real world. Breastplates tend to exist because somebody's like going out and wants to protect their chest, not that they want to like head out in full riot gear. It's definitely pretty close to how we rock out bulletproof vests today. Like sometimes people go out in full riot gear, but most of the time cops have like a bulletproof vest on.
Yeah, and I think like the advantage of a breastplate over other medium armors is that it doesn't give disadvantage on stealth checks. I remember right.
Ah, okay, that makes sense why you would want it then. So you're giving up a couple points of armor, but you're not getting disadvantage from having it. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Is that
medium
worth
is
putting
definitely
on?
the blend of the two.
Yeah. Is that worth putting on like any of like the NPCs or anything, or is it just worth collecting that cold hard cash?
In the long run, they don't really have that option. If they have medium armor, they pretty much effectively already have that item. Most. Oh wait, my bad. You could give them the protection of giving them the +1 as far as magic items goes. You can give them magic items. They're limited on the same level of attunement, though. So you can only give one of them 3 attuned magical items if you wanted to load your NPCs up with magical items, and you are more than welcome to. I mean, on that case, you guys have, I think, Bill and Terry have the swords of chaos. They just have to stay away from each other. Or not Bill, Bob and Terry. You guys have other magic items that you've already put on some of the sidekicks.
Yeah, I think so. Gail, you said you were going to make Bill as a ranger. I think pretty sure rangers can wear medium armor. So if you wanted to give it to him as kind of a sorry about getting your friend torn to shreds, but I mean, it's not something that Dalton is going to use. So
So look,
Here,
here's what I'm thinking. We're all pretty broke. Let me just go out, see what I can get for an offer. And if it's a good one, we'll take it. If not, we hang on to 'em.
Got to make just oddities and see what you can find for a price tag on it.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel like I've rolled really bad, but I was like desperate for cash, so I still sold it. But if we're like kind of pressed, but not really pressed, we could see if we get a good quote.
Welcome to Major Oddities. If you'd like to sell your breastplate, you can certainly show it to me. And let me have a charisma persuasion from you. Solid.
12 total.
12. Well, this is a fine enough piece. What are you looking to do with it? And yeah, like you're just looking to simply sell it right now?
Just trying to get a quote if we just sold it like straight cash versus like potentially shopping around. He's like for sure trying not to look desperate, but like also knows everybody's broke. So I feel like the two really reflects it. You like see right through him.
Dalton, let me have you roll a D100 for me.
91.
I believe I could purchase this for 2,100 gold.
2100. You said. Are you guys with me right now?
I think yeah, I think Dalton would be unless there's yeah.
2100 gold cash right now for this breastplate, Dalton. What do you think? I mean, we don't need the money. We could shop around a bit, but I mean, it's cash, and we want everybody to make money.
Not to pass up seems like a pretty good price to me.
2250. 22,250. No, 2250 was right. Yeah. She'll kind of just like look to you with like a sigh and just 22,250.
Yeah, right. That sounds good. Deal done. It's heavy. I don't want to have to carry it back anyway. So
She'll start to she'll look to you. Platinum is acceptable. You wouldn't care to spend any of your money on any of my wares, would you?
well, I mean, gold's made for spending. I mean, my share, of course. I could take a look while we're here.
She'll kind of like with a little bit of a smile on her head, kind of um just like reach beneath the counter. Is there anything in particular that you would be looking for as far as magical items go?
And I like just got the dog. Honestly, I don't really know. Is there anything that you guys are like keeping an eye out for?
Dalton would probably he could take a if like there was some sort of magical rapier. He's got the long sword, but he's still not really proficient with it. Or he is, but he's his it's his strength with it is not. He's much better with a more the lighter kind of rapier like blade. So if there was something to, and then he could potentially sell the if it's something they would buy the anarchic longsword, unless there was someone else who wanted it.
So she reaches beneath the counter and she is going to grab an object and she kind of pulls it out and it's a small blue kind of knit cap. It looks like a I don't know, like Scully, a beanie. But she pulls out this small, like knit, kind of sea blue, like almost greenish blue cap, and she places it on the countertop with the biggest smile. And she's kind of like looking to you guys. So, was there actually a decided particular weapon there, between you guys that you're asking for?
I think he said a rapier, right?
Rapier?
Yeah, for Dalton, yeah.
Roll a D100. So Jinx isn't necessarily looking for an item. You just like use that as an opportunity to like kind of look towards Dalton.
Yeah, exactly. Jinx is always like looking to peruse.
Gotcha. So she takes this little blue cap like with a little bit of like dejection and starts to like slide it back underneath the counter, and kind of places it out of view. And a magical rapier I do indeed have. And roll another D100 for me, Dalton.
It's a 6.
I have. You said rapier.
Yes, yeah.
I do indeed have a rapier that just came in today. I got it at quite a steal. You have all been of great service to Polis. I couldn't quite charge you what this is worth, but were you willing to pay at least what I invested in it. I would be happy to hand it over, and you can keep the remaining of your gold from the God damn it, what did I just buy from you?
The magical breastplate.
The breastplate. So really, she's making you decide whether you want this at the cost that she paid, but she's not actually telling you how much it is.
Well, you seem like a pretty good negotiator. Yeah, sure.
That's oh. So you'll basically see as she counts out like 22 platinum pieces, and then she's got like these 5 stacks of 10 gold pieces for the 2250, and then she's just gonna pull away what is it, like 2 platinum and 6 gold pieces. Yeah, she's gonna pull away 2 platinum and 6 gold pieces. With again, she's just got this kind of like dejected kind of face on her, but she's like, it's not like she's disappointed. It's just like this was something that she stole, and she's kind of saying like, look, you guys have been great for what you've been doing. Like, if this was anything that I invested in, I need to take profit on it. But this is something like she just didn't have to invest in, kind of thing. But yeah, she'll give you the sword for like 26 gold pieces effectively. So you guys can, or 200? No, 26, yeah.
Wait, no, shouldn't it be 260?
Yeah, 260.
6% of 500 is what I'm going for. She didn't take 20 platinum pieces. 2. So that should be 20 gold pieces. Doing a lot of math in my head. I know
Oh,
it's not like a good 6% of 500, but that was effectively what I was looking for.
okay. Yeah, so 6% would actually just be 30 gold. So she could just take away 3 platinum.
Yeah, no, 26. That works out perfectly then. Because yeah, she didn't need it to be like an even round number. So yeah, 26 I
Okay,
feel like is solid. That's
so
close enough to what the math works out.
I divided up the armor, 2,225 gold, 6 ways because of our NPCs or our partners. So that is 371 gold each. So for the 3 of us and then the other guys. So 371 each.
Gotcha. So we'll call this 2 of the weeks having gone by. I realize now when we play next week, we'll have 5 weeks basically have gone by since we started the apartment assault. So we'll have the potential of giving you guys 3 more tries. Do you want to do the 700 gold to train this week?
I'm gonna skip this week, I think. That's still pricey. Even though I did just get a decent amount.
Uh, Dalton will go for it, using his share of the split from the breastplate.
Alright, fine, I'm going to. I'm convinced.
All right. So again, let me have you guys roll a d20 plus 1 plus your dexterity.
It's a 22 for Dalton.
Tell me you didn't actually roll another 2.
Oh no, I didn't roll yet. Is this our test to try to get the proficiency?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Okay, I want to do my inspiration that I got from rolling my natural one last time to try to
Gotcha.
yeah. Can you see that? I got a 1 again.
Yes.
It's my other roll. So it would have been a natural 1 followed by a natural 1. But no, it ends up being 14 plus whatever the modifiers were.
So Dalton can have 2 successes. You've got 1 success. And I think that's a solid point for us to stop and see what happens. Like we can continue the intervening. Chris made 3 scrolls. That's like 9 days of his 14 there. And you guys technically were doing probably roughly that amount of days, but I feel like that's pretty legit. Sound good to everybody?
Yeah, works for me.
Or do we want to just wrap it up? Like, would it feel weird, Chris, if I just like had them rolling? Does it sound good to leave you guys a week to think about other stuff you might fill your week up with? That's part of what I was really thinking, is to give you guys just as much more opportunity to think of stuff to do.
Yeah, and we can even roll an average if we wanted to, knock out the third week of training, over the week at some point.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an option for you to also keep in mind, is now that you've got 2 successes, it's much easier for you to turn down if something was a higher price to play to go shooting. But yeah, I'm open to all of those things, to solving downtime issues, whether we do it during the actual week just on Discord, or if we have to do it next week when we pick up. But I think that sounds pretty solid. I wrote down the way I was calculating that cost. So I think that's pretty legit to see how it goes. But yeah, I hope you have a good day at work here, Chris. If you haven't fallen asleep at your computer, and get a good night's sleep before you go into work. But otherwise, have I don't know, I guess maybe they do celebrate Halloween at the same time. I don't know if Sweden knocks out Halloween, but happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Kind of wanted to make sort of the ghost theme of this day a little bit more creepy. And that was part of why I definitely wanted to prepare like the Dark Reliquary as part of like the death sequence, in case you guys wanted to play out the resurrection. I wanted to kind of turn it into, it's hard to like fake Call of Cthulhu, but I definitely wanted to try to have that like theme of death an aspect of the actual game in Tolus.
Yeah, no, it was definitely unsettling. Which no, I liked it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Dark Reliquary is one of the things that's like, hey, this is a place you go for 15 level plus gameplay in Tolus. It's like, when you control everything, go here and good luck.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun. Definitely glad we successfully got Dalton back. We were rolling pretty bad there. I was like, I hope this works.
Oh, you guys crushed the like actual resurrection process. Every other roll was trash though.
Yeah, and I like the idea that like if he dies again, it's going to be obviously even harder to, the soul only wants to come back every, so many times.
I think that's an important aspect of 5th edition. The heals make it so hard to die. The game makes it so easy to be revived. Like usually level 5 and on, even before level 5, you might be able to like get somebody to, you can pay enough. But definitely as you guys get higher and higher levels, you just have so many people like that you've like helped. As long as you're not like an evil group, you have so many people that you've helped. It's part of the same reason why it's like, damn, I like have to have like Madrith like giving you guys stuff when you roll so good, like on the pricing kind of thing. because like you're just like a known person in Tolis now. It's just as much that she wants to like pass on that discount is that I should also be role playing like she's just grateful to see you like patronizing her place because that's going to bring in more business. All kinds of things like that. I haven't even thought about the fact that like at some point here, you know, I could have somebody like approaching you for a sponsorship. Ooh, might have you guys meet a real estate agent next week. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great night here. Be well. And again, happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Sorry, I haven't answered so much here. My headphones crapped out on the end. I've been trying to fix them.
Oh, I was gonna say, like I kind of said there. Do you celebrate Halloween in Sweden? You guys like go crazy? Do you do it as adults? Do you do it as kids? I don't know culturally anything about it for you.
I mean, it's uh, definitely a new holiday. I mean, remember me growing up, there wasn't much of Halloween until I was like a teen, basically. And then after that, it feels like it's mostly like kids, teens who celebrate Halloween.
Gotcha. Do you have decorations at work at all?
I mean, we do a lot of like working with uh, people with. I feel like it say the wrong word every time in English, like mental handicaps. Like holidays in general are a big thing for plenty of those people, and so we try to like celebrate every kind of holiday, even if it's like a small one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like it's like infecting, not infecting like in a bad way, but it's like growing when you start to have people like just appreciating it to appreciate it. When you have places just normalizing it with the decorations, but I mean, technically for us, like I think Halloween started around like Prohibition age, so it's like our 1920s. It's only really 100 years old. How it's like a dress up holiday. I think past that, it goes back to, what, England and like Wicca, kind of like actual All's Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I feel like it was like I mean, because that was a big like pagan, um, I think, not ritual, but like the date isn't like All Hallows Eve. I think was kind of maybe it had something to do traditionally with like the winter solstice or something, or yeah, I don't know too much about all the background of Halloween, like how it became
I'm
a
pretty sure
holiday.
All
But
Hallows Eve is the winter solstice. Yeah.
I
Isn't it the
remember
longest? What were you thinking there, Chris?
I was trying like I remember like some mythology. I'm not sure if this is where Halloween comes from, but I remember like either Irish or Scottish folklore, and like on All Hallows Eve, the like dead people were allowed to like roam the living place. So dead people, demons, all kind of fake creatures, things like that. That's why you had to wear like a mask, so they wouldn't see that you were like regular human.
so there was I just googled it real quick because it was bothering me. Yeah, so there was an old, yeah, so yeah, like you said, old Celtic festival is called Samhain, I guess.